back to Tales of Praxis, everyone. A streaming and analytical article series by withtheterriblefate.com, your online publication and source for everything to do with analyzing the stories of your favorite and least favorite video games and everything in between. I'm your host, the founder of With the Terrible Fate, Aaron Suduiko. In Tales of Praxis, for those who don't know or need a refresher, we're exploring the various Tales JRPGs of Bandai Namco over the years, not in chronological order or anything like that, but more of thematically feeling our way through the series in the way that feels right as we go. So we started with Tales of Symphonia and Dawn of the New World, its sequel. Hey, Grail, welcome back. A pleasure to have you on this Friday night. Welcome, welcome. And now we are streaming a playthrough of Tales of Zestiria and already anticipating and kind of talking about and foreshadowing, while doing our best not to spoil, a playthrough of Tales of Berseria after that. Wednesday's stream was, I think, a nice combination of chill story exploration and just conversation about all the games, because we didn't do all that much, but I think what we got through was really substantive and interesting, and we explored in a lot of rewarding ways. We healed Marland of its malevolence-driven plague. We learned a lot about Saray and Alicia's relationship, the bonds they both feel to duty above all else. We learned more about the nature of malevolence as something that isn't simply evil, but rather a lack of basically faith in the rightness of your own actions and the path that you choose, and kind of your self-concept. And then we kind of stumbled headlong into a war that was breaking out between the kingdoms of Highland and Rolance, where the Seraphim were trying to warn Saray, oh, as the shepherd, you have to stay above human affairs, because if you were to do something like intercede in war, you would absolutely turn the tides and everything could get thrown into chaos. But then, of course, the Kingdom of Highland managed to bully Saray into helping by taking Alicia prisoner and basically threatening her standing in the kingdom and her well-being more broadly. So poor Saray, he went to war. We saw exactly what you would expect when sort of a holy savior is recruited into something like a crusade in some of those epic and frankly terrifying battles last time, like we talked about. Yeah, exactly, Grail. Grail, good news. Even though you missed some of the war scene that you feel so strongly about, I stopped before the climax because, as I told people at the end of the last stream, I thought it would be more fun to kick off this stream with it rather than ending the last stream with it. So we still got a bit of that ahead of us. It is a cozy gray evening here in Colorado. We've been going through a lot of rain and thunderstorms and such, so hunkered down. I'm not wearing, well, actually I am wearing the typical With the Terrible Fate t-shirt, but have a hoodie over it, so that's why. But don't worry, still repping the brand, always repping the spirit of With the Terrible Fate and the magic of video game stories. So, enough of all that. I think that brings us up to current. We were guiding Saray through the war. He turned the tide against Rolance, basically cowed them into submission in some pretty harrowing scenes. And now it is Hellion cleanup time from the myriad Hellions that emerged directly as a result of this war, because all of the kind of malice and chaos on both sides, we learned is the perfect kind of breeding ground for malice and consequently Hellions. Oh yeah, it's like that in Ohio too, Grail. I think there's been some nutty weather sweeping the country. It's been a wacky week for that stuff. Every time I look at the forecast for where I am in Colorado, just outside Boulder, it's like they keep adding more days of expected rain and thunderstorms, so who knows if it'll ever really end. We'll see.
Let's do this!
Be on alert for the axe beak's jump attack, even though it can't fly.
Ready?
You sure are strange.
It's a classic Grail, that's for sure.
Definitely weird.
You're also really...
Not weird.
I remember actually being more tickled than I expected when Axpeak showed up in Dawn of the New World and I was able to befriend it and add it to the party. I didn't think I had any affection to it, but sometimes those cute little critters sneak up on you. Those are blue.
Steady your nerve.
Joke's on you, I can still equip it in battle. Oh, yeah, but see, look at this. This is where I start getting frustrated because it has a higher attack power, this new sword. But look at this. Even without us having committed a lot of time to working on the skill grid, we put a little effort into it. We have all those sweet skills lined up, almost a full vertical column. And if we were to switch to Azure Blue, totally mess up the synergies we were working towards. So I guess I'll just keep it as is for now and shake my fist at the clouds outside in frustration. All wiggle. You got a lot of love for the silly bouncy enemies, huh, Grail? It reminds me of
Everyone okay?
what do they call them Pokemon? Poliwags? Those first gen ones that evolve into Poliwrath. It's a bit of a similar energy in my memory. A little bit like Spheal too. Okay, I remember the one that we needed to finish Suray's vertical column is Focus. Doesn't look like we can get any of these here, but at least now we know what to check for. It's pretty easy, all things considered.
Ready, everyone? Be gone! Strike! Let's get him! Be gone! Strike! It's over! Strike them malevolent! Tiger, hang on, everyone! How's this? Miss me over! Wait a Everyone okay?
I do find as I'm getting back into the flow of this specific battle system, and because I think we're playing it on normal as opposed to hard, I'm kind of leaning into the flow of it and appreciating it more than I had been in the earlier stages. Like, there is a kind of nice rhythm and pacing you can get in battle if you keep your eye on everyone's health and vitals in terms of when you choose to cycle Seraphim out and when you opt to Armatize, not even as an offensive strategy, but as a way of kind of consolidating your forces.
What? He's still
It's
at
just so different than the other games is the thing.
Exterminate them! Don't let a single one escape!
it? General, the battle is already over!
The shepherd is naive as you'd expect. The more rats we crush as they scurry away, the fewer they'll have in our next battle.
Surely that isn't necessary.
It doesn't seem like there's any use trying to reason with him.
It was thanks to you, shepherd, that we were able to pull off such a rout.
Oh yeah, that must be
Show us a
frustrating
little
if you have to be
more
outside in
pride.
it, Grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's unexpected rain that kind of comes and goes throughout the day, that's the
release
worst.
Alicia.
He's vile even by human standards.
The way things are here, it won't make a difference, no matter how many Hellions we purify.
I agree. We should get far away from here until things settle down.
Fine.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this story on stream, Grail, but I recently drove
I just saw a
out
monolith written in
from
ancient time.
Colorado to New Hampshire to go to my high school reunion and see some family that's around there. And then I drove back. That's like a 29-hour drive, and I was in my electric vehicle, so it was like just the drive from hell with all of the having to find chargers and wait for the charge and everything else. The weather was great, 98% of the way. And then I swear, you can't make this up, like the last hour of the trip back to Colorado in the dead of night, because I was getting in at like 1 or 2 in the morning, just the sky opens up. It's not even raining, it's hailing. There's thunderstorms. My dog is so scared in the back seat, she like jumps into my lap in the driver's seat to try to get comfort from me. It was chaos 8 ways to Sunday. Weather is one of those funny things where it's totally in the background and you don't think about it until it suddenly just decides it's going to be really loud and ruin your day. You do hate to see it. But hey, at least we've got plenty of monoliths written in the ancient tongue. Oh! Here we fucking go.
This domain, it's like none I've ever felt before.
Yeah, this is worth the wait.
You're not kidding.
Squeezing this in on Wednesday would not have been a good choice.
It can't be. What is this?
Oh, when even Edna is unironically scared, that's when you know it's going down.
Powerful and evil of a domain.
You don't mean the Lord of Calamity?
It looks like the humans are starting to lose their minds.
We have to stop this!
Wait!
No! We don't yet have the strength to face this threat!
I'm aware. I'll run if things turn bad. Your lives are on the line too.
Yeah, that's typical.
What are you asking, Grail? Are you asking, like, can the Lord of Calamity, like, alter his malevolent settings to decide whether or not to dye the sky? I don't think the Lords of Calamity had access to that level of quality of life in 2015. Before we forge on ahead here, I also wanted to just point out, I love that, like, trope that we saw of, like, the soldiers losing their minds and starting to turn against each other with the violence. Like, that idea that they're just so overcome by this evil domain that, like, their very nature becomes corrupted. I'm trying to think, like, what that's from, because that's definitely not original to Zestiria. It's almost like, it's like the Lovecraft idea of, like, losing your mind by looking beyond that which you should be able to know, but it's about, like, evil as opposed to the, like, the cosmic limits of human knowledge. I'm almost, this is not a modern pop culture example, but I'm thinking almost of, like, Dante and the Divine Comedy, like Inferno specifically, the first part of the poem where he goes to hell with Virgil, because a lot of those circles are, like, obviously the idea is that sinners are being allocated to different parts of hell in accordance with their sins, and they have to pay for it for eternity. But in a lot of the representations of it, it's like they're kind of, like, bound up in their sin, even in hell forever. Like, one of the most vivid and visceral descriptions from that part of the poem is, I think in one of the circles of treason, I forget which two Italians Dante is talking about, but there's, like, one who betrayed the other in life, and they're just, like, two heads, and one is, like, a barnacle on the other and just, like, gnawing it to pieces, like, gradually eating it for all eternity. Ugh, if you want to talk about just grotesque but memorable images of just violence and the most vile corners of human immorality.
No!
Landon.
Well, you knew that was coming.
You insist on jeopardizing my glorious victory, do you? How utterly foolish. Now stand up! The chancellors may think you useful to the kingdom, but I expect they'll reconsider once I deliver to them your severed
Speaking
head.
of severed heads.
Don't do it! He's already completely transformed into a Hellion! Too late.
Oh yeah, I forget which circle that is, Grail, but I know what you're talking about.
Everyone, stand with me!
The other part that always got me as a kid was his description of the suicide woods, like all of just the withered, brittle trees of people who killed themselves. Oh, that's really chilling and just so kind of like like melancholic. There's a wistfulness to it that doesn't come through in a lot of the other parts of Hell. I wanted to point out it's interesting too that I've already forgotten this commander's name, but that we're seeing him as a Hellion, because it's almost like it's the counterpoint to what they've been talking about with the hidden bones, where they keep saying, oh, the hidden bones, they're assassins, but there's no malevolence on them. That's so weird that they can kill but so purely believe in it that they remain pure of heart. Whereas here we have someone who's a knight, presumably like Alicia, and you would expect knights to just, by definition, uphold standards of honor and nobility. But clearly, they're only human at the end of the day, and so just as much as an assassin can be honorable, a knight can be corrupt. Pretty damn corrupt from the looks of it.
Ready?
Yeah, being a tree would be a rough lot. At least if you turn into a fungus like in The Last of Us, like, you get to be part of a hive mind, you have this whole network around the world, it's kind of like a built-in community. With a tree, I feel like you're just all the more isolated and apt to abuse. And speaking of weather, right, you know, storm comes along and breaks parts of you off. Like, it is not a great lot.
So Ray, are you trying to armatize?
Yeah. I'm going.
That's not what I meant.
I need to concentrate all of my power on this sword.
Yeah, I forgot a lot of the facts I learned in school about them until I watched like the little intro in the beginning of the Last of Us TV show that kind of gives all the fungi facts to scare you about them. But yeah, I mean, talk about badass. Like, it's kind of an unbelievable organism that you would think is the stuff of science fiction if we didn't know it to really exist. All right, let's do Mystic Art. If I can manage these buttons. There we go. Oh, I missed the timing. Oh, do they not want me to do it armatized? Do they want me to just do it as Saray? Yeah, you're right. Good call, Gray. I thought there was some kind of Mystic Art you could do armatized. Maybe that's either unlocked later or I'm just totally slurring parts of the gameplay together in my head. Awesome. One more mechanic to keep track of, but at least that's an old, familiar, beloved one.
The strength of his domain is far greater than that of my powers of purification.
So we need to remove the source, huh?
Good luck. There's no way you can expel the Lord of this domain.
We have to.
It's dangerous.
Lila, please! If we don't do it, this battle will never end!
It looks like the heart of the malevolence is on top of that hill.
Sorry. Save the apology.
Oh, is that right, Grail? That's funny.
Dying.
Yeah, Micleo. That's the spirit.
Grace's wasn't even that much before this, was it?
So are we
What year was
going or
Grace's?
what?
Do you remember?
Right.
It was PS3, so I guess maybe it was like a generation before this at least. But still, not that far back for them to be basically reusing Mystic Arts. How are we for health? Good, we regenerated. Oh, 9? No. It's got to be later than that. I mean, Dawn of the New World was 08, and Grace's, at least in my memory, feels like more developed than Dawn of the New World was in terms of its engine.
And it's not only because we're a bit tired.
These soldiers may already be affected by malevolence.
Every single one of them? Saray, we can't last like this.
Ready? It's over!
I like how pessimistic the whole party is getting as we continue in further battles in this domain. It's a nice touch to see their morale kind of gradually wane. Not nice as in I enjoy it, but it's good storytelling.
Ready, everyone? Blade bang! Strike! No escape now! Blade bang! Blade bang! It's over! Sweet dreams! Yeah! Ready? Strike! I won't lose! Fracture ice! Dream blaster! Ready? What, everyone? I better just try that. Yeah! Blade bang! Let's go! It's time! Howling blade! Full tempest!
I gotta look up Graces quick, that's gonna bug me. My god, you're right, Grail. It was 09. I'm sorry, I doubted you. December of 09, though, so, and that was in Japan, so we probably didn't get it until at least 10, right? When did it come out in the US? Oh, not until 2012. That's why I thought that. Okay, so yes, it was technically out and about in 09, but not in the English Tales of Graces F adaptation in North America and the EU until 2012. It's got to be one of the longer gaps between original publication and publication in America of all the Tales games. Yeah, it was quite a wait we had back in the day. And for one of my favorite games in the series, too. Oh, is that right? I was gonna say, well, it's the Wii, what are you gonna do? But I was actually pretty happy with my experience going through Dawn of the New World again in terms of just its raw playability. Like, I was afraid it might break once or twice, but it kept chugging along, God bless it.
Ready? No escape! Tiger blade! Strike!
I think all Nintendo systems are based, man. I mean,
It's over!
I think I've made this comment on the stream before, but I am always amazed at how, like, my GameCube, Game Boy Advance SP, like all of these old as dust Nintendo systems, I can still dust them off and play them as if they were new. Whereas like my Xbox 360, my PlayStation 3, like those poor systems have aged much less gracefully than the Nintendo ones. God bless Nintendo, they really know how to build things that last. It is funny though how like not even different games in the series but different versions of them, like releases for different systems, will get reputations for, you know, some of them being really buggy, some of them being flawless. I feel like that happens a lot with Tales games. Even with Tales of Symphonia Remastered, the most recent one, right? The Switch, speaking of Nintendo systems, had like game-breaking bugs, right? That, you know, none of which I got on the PS4 version. But enough of that for the moment. Here we are. The man, the myth, the legend.
You must be.
So another shepherd is born at last.
Ooh.
Frightened, are you?
Yeah, no sweat, Grail. Come and go as you
The
please.
song of death is so sweet.
Happy to have you for as much as we get you.
Lila!
Right!
Bethmas Mioma!
Sorry?
Boy, I think this is really the first time I can remember seeing Saray flustered.
How brilliant your purity, your innocence. No painter could ask for a more pristine canvas.
Listen well, young shepherd. My name is Heldalf. I wonder how much longer you will live.
What in the world was that? Mikleo? Lila! Edna! Huh? Mikleo!
I forgot he loses the seraphim.
Who are they? Where did they come from? Ethmismioma! Ethmismioma!
God, he's so powerless without them. The hidden bones, on the other hand, never
Damn it.
powerless.
Why?
Wow. What a way to kick off a Friday night stream, am I right, folks?
Did you save me?
Ah! We know that, hidden bones.
Mikleo!
What a twist.
That man with the lion's head. What did he do?
Rose.
Someone's coming.
It could only be Rose.
We gotta get out of here.
It is, I think it's fair to say, a twist you would never see coming. But we're going to have plenty of time to talk and think about Rose and her relationship with Soray and everything else. The one thing I want to point out about that amazing scene with Heldalf before we move too far away from it, and this is almost the kind of thing I could see really easily writing an article about for the series. There's this trope in a lot of, I think especially JRPG and JRPG adjacent storytelling, where especially in games that focus on just beating this one ultimate evil dude who is wreaking havoc on the world, you kind of run into them at various points throughout your journey before the final confrontation. So I'm thinking of something like Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time or Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII, that kind of idea. But I feel like what happens with Heldalf is sort of a riff on that that's importantly and interestingly different, where it's not just like you're chasing the Lord of Calamity and kind of run into him at various points. Instead, we have Lila saying at the very start of Soray's quest, listen, your ultimate job is to beat the Lord of Calamity, and you have to go on all of these adventures first to, get to know the world and figure out what your questions are and get them answered and develop as the shepherd. So she foregrounds this idea that the Lord of Calamity is going to be the monster at the end of the book and the big bad you ultimately have to fight. And then it's almost like this unexpected surprise that you run into him way before you expect to, and you, the player, are just as caught off guard as Soray, and Soray is almost like rushed to try to be the savior there's no way he's ready to be, and then has to recover from that failure that was kind of inevitable, yet also totally an accident and outside of his control because he wasn't like seeking out the Lord of Calamity or running headstrong into it before he had to. Kind of things transpired such that he just had to face him at that point. So it's interesting to kind of see not just the savior figure of Soray, but also the savior figure kind of preempted by the thing he's supposed to save the world from, and then how someone who is sadly still all too human has to pick himself back up and get over that and figure out how to actually be the savior he needs to be at the end of it all. Wait, what are you saying about the outfits, Grail? I don't follow that. You can the DLC applies to both Rose and Alicia? I thought it was just an Alicia story. As I've said, I haven't played it yet. Oh, I see what you're saying. They share outfit sets as opposed to most characters' outfits being unique to them. That is interesting. I can't really think of any other Tales games that do that in terms of different playable characters sharing outfits. Although I'll admit I haven't really played around with outfits as much in the more modern Tales games as I did with all the outfit titles in the earlier games. Beat him with a mystic art. Now that is a battle technique I can get behind. Man, I remember when I recently replayed the beginnings of this game, I got through this part, and I'm not going to do it on this stream, don't worry, but this is the problem with like open worlds, right? So you see this map, and you see that there are two areas, one on the left and one on the right, that don't progress the story but are available to Soray right now. And so I remember when I got here in that previous playthrough, I'm such a just obsessive completionist that even though Soray is lugging Rose on his back and has such a severely impaired walking speed, I still insisted like, nope, he's got to go down both of the side paths before we can advance things. And so it took me like 10 times as long as it otherwise would have. At least I'm not alone, Grail. I appreciate that. Thank you. Makes me feel like less of a crazy gamer.
You awake? So, you're the leader of that assassin.
Maybe that's the joke. Maybe they're just toying with us with their world design.
Surprised?
Well, sure.
I mean, yeah, I don't see how you couldn't be surprised by that,
Rose will
given everything we've seen in the story so far.
Hey, why didn't you leave me behind?
You were in danger. I couldn't not help you.
Even knowing I was an assassin?
I could just as easily ask what an assassin like you was doing rescuing me.
I don't know. I'll have to decide later if it was really the right decision. But I can tell you're a good person.
Huh?
The same kind of ability to sense
Someone's
people's
watching
hearts as
Okay.
gives
Hey,
Alicia
let's
like
head north.
aptitude for seeing Seraphim.
There's a ruin off that way that we're currently using as a hideout.
Oh, you're not worried our pursuers might find it?
Nah, we'll be fine.
That's the true malevolence of this
Want me to
world,
set you
Grail.
down?
Not the Lord
I'm
of
good.
Calamity, the
This'll
devs.
give him a false sense of security.
Sounds great, Rose. Sounds great.
Boss! Isn't that the shepherd?
I'll explain later. We were followed, so I led him here. Now comes the fun part.
Hey, stop!
Yeah, she definitely has a sense of humor, Grail.
Are you really going to kill them? Depends who they are. I just don't like the idea of someone like Rose being a murderer. Hey!
Curious how people feel about Rose's voice actor, because like I feel like she does a fine job, but for whatever reason, kind of the tenor of her voice, it's not even like I don't like it. I just feel like her type of voice is kind of out of place with the other voice acting in the game, tonally speaking. I don't know if anyone gets what I mean by that. I'm kind of even having a hard time articulating it because I'm not super well voiced in the ins and outs of voice acting, but I can't place her from anything else that I've like seen or played. And yeah, I think her voice has always been part of what has made her feel a little out of place to me.
Huh? Who are you guys?
You've got the wrong people if you're looking for stragglers. As you can see, we're no soldiers. Get going. And you better quit hunting soldiers!
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Grail. Like, what do you mean someone like her, Saray?
Stupid mess.
I swear Rolance has gone mad.
You can deal with other people being murderers, just
What
not
is the
Rose.
Empire thinking?
The princess manages to keep Highland's crazies in check, and then Rolance up and blows the whole thing apart. What the hell?
And now we've got those poor kids resorting to looting and banditry.
Guess they're growing up tough.
You got something to say?
No. Listen, we may be an assassin's guild, but that doesn't mean that we just run around killing everyone.
No one tastes our blade unless they need it.
Yeah, that would be my guess, Grail, all jokes aside. I think it's probably just another way of Saray articulating what he's talked about with the Seraphim before. Like, it just doesn't make sense to him or sit well with him that someone who's an assassin could be pure of heart, or maybe vice versa, that someone who's pure of heart could be an assassin. I think he doesn't know how to square the idea of killing with the idea of purity of intentions.
Then what about me?
Don't worry, you won't wake up with a dagger in your back. But know this, Saray. If the shepherd turns out to be a force for evil that leads people astray, we won't hesitate to kill you. Remember that. Bet you're sorry you saved me now.
But wait a minute, boss. How will we know for sure?
Good question. Huh?
Sorry, this whole thing is just sort of ridiculous.
It sure
Well,
is.
our hideout's this way. Let's rest up for a bit.
We'll skulk around and check for any other pursuers in the area.
Thanks. You're the best.
Okay, so I'll have to see what the rest of the story holds because I don't remember it all. And like I've said, when I replayed it recently, I didn't replay it all the way through. But I feel like playing through this section and kind of remembering what I do about my difficulties with the story from the past, I think part of what I had trouble with, and this can oftentimes be challenging in JRPGs. I was talking about this with a buddy the other day, actually. Like, it can be hard to square the political story and plot within a JRPG and kind of international conflicts with everything else that's going on a character level and in terms of the themes of the story. And so in this game, for instance, we have the path of the shepherd and the journey to purify humanity, but then we also have all of these kinds of political plots and intrigue between these two empires. And then we also have this guild, the Assassins, the Hidden Bones, that I think are kind of defined as much as anything else by being sort of this vigilante force outside the purview of either kingdom. And so I remember, and I'm already kind of feeling this itch now, that it's hard for me to kind of square everything that the Hidden Bones are and what that political intrigue has to do with everything that Sorey is up to. So that's not to say it's a criticism of the game or something that we can't do. I think it's just something worth keeping an eye on as we move forward with this. Oh, there you go, Grail. We're catching up to you. Hot on your heels. Yeah, actually, I played a little further than you did my last time through, but we're pretty close to where I put it down, too. I don't know what it is, because I remember the story is much slower, but actually looking at just the raw number of hours we've put in, I feel like it's kind of progressing more quickly than I might have expected. Maybe just something about the size of the world and the wandering nature of the quest, like I talked about in previous streams, make it feel longer than it is.
Old Man Maven!
Nice to see you again, milady. And that one with you, the shepherd I've heard so much about?
Yeah,
My
thereabouts.
name is Sorey.
We'll be there soon.
How did you know I was the shepherd?
Hey, Chrissy, welcome back. It's been a while. Good to see you.
Isn't it obvious? Anyone could tell just by looking at you.
Welcome to Tales of Zestiria.
This is Maven. He's not with the guild, but we owe him a whole lot. He's an explorer, and yes, they still make those.
Cool.
No worries. I hope the PhD stuff has been going well for you.
I just like to travel where I please, tracing the footsteps left in this.
God knows that can keep you busy.
The Celestial Record.
Oh, we love the Celestial Record. Yeah, definitely that level of design, Grail. It's a great point.
I was worried when I heard that war had broken out.
Like a Sid type, very much a
all
pilot
right?
look about him, to me at least.
Think we'll ditch this hideout. Might pass on jobs for a while, too, until this all blows over.
I hope I didn't cause this.
A shepherd who worries for an assassin's guild? You are quite a strange one.
Seriously.
Yeah, they have to pull out their
In any
editions
case,
of the
I should
Celestial
take
Record,
my leave
Grail.
as well.
Huh? Already?
Don't get too comfortable.
If it's a first edition, it could be as much as
The
a
appearance of the
Charizard.
shepherd, new clouds of war, the winds of change are fast approaching.
Yeah, I sense it too.
Sorey, since you took the trouble to come here, why not see if you can solve the riddle of the ruins back there?
That still holds up as a pretty good summary, Grail.
What do you mean?
These ruins aren't mentioned in the Celestial Record. The same goes for several other shrines and legends. And yet, it is far from a difficult task to unearth them. Don't you think there must be something more to it?
You can't fathom the true meaning of legends until you've seen their history with your own eyes.
Yeah, Chrissy, I'll try to give you a back of the baseball card
Well
summary
said.
after we're done with the cutscene.
Sorey, let us meet again. You too, milady.
Yeah, another time.
So long, old man. Now go on, get inside. Phew, I'm beat. That's enough for one day.
Oh, I thought you kept making a typo
Just use
or
the
like
net back
autocorrect
whenever
was
you
getting you
want.
Grail. That's
Thanks,
so much
Rose.
funnier though.
Don't go running off anywhere just yet. You gotta make sure it's safe first.
Okay, so really quick, like, I don't know, 3 minutes or less synopsis so far. So this is our hero of the story, Saray. Saray is a human. He grew up raised in a village with seraphim, who are these kind of elementally oriented spirits who watch over and literally bless the world in order to keep it purified. There's this cyclical aspect to existence where humanity will kind of be corrupted by this force called malevolence, and then a shepherd, this individual who's pure of heart, will basically rise from the ranks in order to quell the malevolence, purify the world, and save humanity. So Saray is the latest of these shepherds. He loves ruins. He's really interested in the ancient past, so a lot of this is archaeologically oriented. He's made these pacts with various seraphim who are his friends, can't be seen by humans except those with like purity of heart and the resonance to recognize the seraphim around them. One of the key aspects of the game and the gameplay is that Saray is able to basically do the fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z with various seraphim in order to do what's called armatizing and use their powers to quell hellions, which are these sort of demonic creatures that come about when malevolence corrupts either humans or seraphim. Saray's ultimate goal is to defeat the Lord of Calamity, who's kind of this ultimate source of all malevolence, but is just a single person. So we just met that guy, Heldalf, very unexpectedly at the beginning of this stream. These two empires are at war with one another. We spent a lot of time with the princess and also a knight of one of the empires who is very pure of heart and actually became Saray's squire and has been adventuring around with him, trying to help him quell malevolence. The story kind of borrows from and is inspired by King Arthur very much. So there was like a sword in the stone that Saray had to pull to start the journey. And also from Christianity, as Grail mentioned, Saray is a very close like Christ figure analog in terms of the story that's being told and the way that he's redeeming the world. But it's also like the first kind of properly open world, so to speak, game that was in the Tales series. And so along with that exploration comes basically the King Arthur style storytelling of just going around and getting in adventures in different towns and trying to, be dutiful and honor bound and basically improve the moral standing of the world. So Saray just kind of lost his first big blowout battle. I feel like that's being generous to Saray because he got his ass whooped by the Lord of Calamity when he ran into him on a battlefield between Rolance and Highland. He mysteriously lost his seraphim in that battle with the Lord of Calamity, and then he was saved by this organization whose hideout we're at now, the Hidden Bones, which is this like apolitical guild of assassins that mysteriously has not been corrupted by malevolence, because even though they kill people, their motives are presumably very pure. And so we've discovered that this recurring kind of merchant character we've seen throughout the game is actually the leader of this Assassin's Guild, and her name is Rose, and it is she who has rescued Saray. And I think you're pretty much caught up. Oh, and I'll just add, one of the reasons that we're doing this game, which is fun, which you'll appreciate, Chrissy, because I know you watched Symphonia and at least some of Dawn of the New World, is that it has this seemingly very straightforward Christ narrative. and is kind of one of those unexpectedly simple JRPGs in terms of the structure of its storytelling. But then it was followed, kind of similar to Tales of Symphonia, by a sequel, in this case actually a prequel, that turns a lot of the story on its head and challenges it in what I recall as being some pretty cool ways. So we have that kind of parallelism with the Symphonia duology. And feel free to shout out any other questions along the way. But I impressed myself. I feel like that was a decent sum up. Grail can be the judge of that. The other thing, which I'm sure you will see in short order, Chrissy, is I've been spending a lot of time talking about just the complexity of the various like combat and stat optimization systems in this game versus Symphonia and Dawn of the New World, because we've jumped from first a 2003 game to a 2008 game, and now this is a 2015 game, and a lot of the like systems for engaging with combat and even navigating the world are now just much more complex than the systems we had in the previous games.
So the depths of the ruins are just beyond here, huh? Looks like it's sealed off.
That's right, I think we have to go around and hit all of those pressure stones. But we can't do them all yet, because I saw one behind that hidden bones who was standing guard. Guess we have to sleep first. Yeah, that's one of the things we've been having a lot of fun with, Chrissy. In many ways, it's a very different game, but in a lot of kind of unexpected ways, it has many similarities. Even as far as like the protagonist-spirit relationship goes, like remember everything we talked about in terms of Ratatosk and his relationship with not just monsters, but also the Centurion spirits like Tenebrae who follow him around. Get very similar vibes with Saray wandering around with the Seraphim. So yeah, it seems very tonally different, especially at first. But I think it ends up kind of probing some similar aesthetic content, and also just questions about like the nature of humanity and goodness, which Dawn of the New World was also very self-consciously concerned with.
Poor Shepherd, all alone.
How vexing. We're right here, yet he can't hear us.
Mechanic hell, yeah, I can't argue that
You
one.
guys!
Saray, are you back to normal now?
Ah, they're back.
Oh, thank goodness.
So these are the Seraphim we found
I
so
was
far.
really freaked
Chrissy.
out when you guys all suddenly disappeared.
So that Lionhead guy, Heldalf, what on earth did he do back there?
Haven't you ever thought about what happens when two domains overlap? Which one's blessing would be the most affected?
What do you mean?
The domain you cast as a shepherd lost to the domain of the one you faced against back there.
And that was enough to momentarily paralyze Saray's resonance?
It's to be expected. That corrupted domain of his is stronger than that of even a dragon.
Ooh, that's saying
Heldalf.
something.
Is he the Lord of Calamity?
It sure looks like it. No one other than the Lord of Calamity could be cloaked in such malevolence.
Well, there's got to be some reason. Some story behind why he came to hold such malevolence and power.
You got that right.
Grail, I love
Something
how
like
much
that
you love
doesn't just
Lila.
happen naturally.
It warms my heart.
I would not challenge him again without first finding the answer and understanding the truth. Oh, Saray!
Are you talking to yourself?
My friends are here with me.
Huh?
They're, Seraphim.
Is this a bad time? Should we come back?
Lila, think she could hear you if we did the usual trick?
Oh, right. Let's try it out.
I think that if you liked Symphonia more than Dawn of the New World, Chrissy, you will definitely be happier with the tone of Zestiria, as it sounds like you can already tell. But I would encourage you to go back to the Dawn stream at some point if it strikes your fancy, because as you know, I kind of had trepidation about replaying it too, and I ended up enjoying it way more than I expected. Grail, good question. I don't know that I would, but I would be happy to extend you the benefit of the doubt. Just as stream friends, if nothing else. That's right, Grail. You have quickly become the main character of the stream. The true protagonist. That's the deep lore of the Tales of Praxis streams.
Hey!
Just try and focus, Rose.
Rose, can you hear?
She's got some good facial expressions. Give her that.
Rose, please, just calm down. I'm not hearing this. Let go. Let me go, you idiot.
Rose, listen.
See, I feel like this would be a more natural reaction than Alicia's. Maybe not punching Saray, but the freaking out over it.
Guess you really pushed her buttons, Mr. Shepard.
Yeah, the boss can't handle that kind of stuff.
I see.
Make yourself at home, Shepard. Just give a holler if you need something.
Background
But for
streaming
now,
better than
we'll
background
need you
music
to hang
any day,
around for a
Chrissy.
bit, till we can decide what to do with you.
Yeah, Edna is the perfect troll in that scene. No doubt about that. Yeah, I'm quickly recognizing what you were saying a couple streams ago, Grail, about the game's just great sense of humor. I didn't remember that part as much. It is also fun. Like, I feel like this is a nice progression because
Yeah, Dezel.
we Dezel, my man. Because we saw with Alicia this just picture of honor and everything that a knight is expected to be, and she was so reverent of the Seraphim, even in Elysia, back before she could see them. And she was almost so devout that her character was a little unbelievable in terms of just being a regular human. And so then to go to that from Rose, to Rose, rather, it's like, I think a very a nice transition where we're able to see, okay, yeah, this is how a knight would be. Here's how a regular human would be if she were pure of heart, but also kind of more grounded than a knight, let alone a princess knight, would be.
Hey, Dezel. There's something I wanted to ask you.
Funny you should say that. I'd like to ask you something too. What's that ability you've got that envelops you in the power of the Seraphim?
You mean the Armatus?
It's called the Armatus, huh? So, that's it. You think I can get one as well?
The Armatus is a fusion of the Shepherd and a Seraph acting in unison.
It's the combination of both powers working in tandem. It isn't something that can be obtained.
That sounds like a real hassle. But I'll admit, it is strong.
I don't get you. What is it you're after?
Just weighing the situation, and seeing if it's connected to my personal agenda.
He keeps many secrets under his
There's
hat,
one
that
last
Dezel.
thing I wanted to ask you. That girl, Rose. Do you think she could enact the power of the Armatus?
It may be possible for her. She does seem to have the latent aptitude for it.
Huh.
But the way she is now, not a chance. She could have all the natural affinity in the world, but she denies the Seraphim. Whose fault is that?
Guess he's not willing to listen to us.
No.
I never did understand those wind Seraphim.
I can kind of see how you would
So,
get there, Grail.
A seraph who desires the Armatus.
I feel like Regal's voice is a little more resonant no pun intended, than Dezel's is. Like a bit of a deeper baritone, if I remember right. Did we see that Grail? I don't remember him possessing Rose. I was thinking it's weird that the Seraphim are saying right off the bat here that Rose seems to possess the latent aptitude for armatizing, whereas, again, comparing her with Alicia, whom we had in the party before this, like, there was never any expectation that Alicia would be able to do that. And she was just the squire going along for the ride. But she also, they were pretty clear, had resonance and the ability to perceive Seraphim, or at least, again, some kind of latent aptitude for it. Maybe the difference is just that Rose has Dezel along for the ride, and so it's evident that she can, like, bond with Seraphim in a more one-on-one intimate way like Saray can. And even though Alicia is, like, devout and aware of their presence, she didn't have that level of, like, intimacy with them. It almost feels like a type of intimacy.
Well, I was thinking of going back to the battlefield.
You must be joking.
You want your resonance to get blocked off again?
We can't just sit around twiddling our thumbs. I need to learn more, and I can't do it here.
No and no. It's too dangerous.
Oh, like, Grail, are you saying that when we fought Rose in the past, you don't think it was, like, Rose battling Saray per se, but Dezel, like, using her body to? I'm interested because, like, I didn't have that thought at all, but I also didn't really know what to do with those fights in my head, and so I'm wondering whether, like, if we have evidence or reason to believe that, maybe that would help to explain what was going on in those sequences.
The shepherd must do something about the Lord of Calamity. I'm the shepherd, so I have to go. Isn't that true?
No.
Huh?
Do not be impatient, Saray.
I'm pretty sure we've told you what the result will be if you lose yourself.
If the shepherd allows malevolence to corrupt him, the world will be plunged into unimaginable chaos.
That's right. Never forget that.
There are some things we won't know until we try. That's true enough. But now's not the time to tempt fate.
Very true. What you need most now is a chance to rest.
Hey, how about this? Why don't we explore the deeper part of the ruins here? I'm legitimately curious
that would
as to
make
what
sense.
Maven was talking about.
Yeah, good catch, Grail. I totally missed that.
Did you say ruin exploring?
But no, I mean, that would make sense. There'd be no other reason why she'd be able to teleport anyways, really.
Well, she's on board.
All right! The boys are back in town!
Sexist pig.
Someone's got his mojo back.
Wasn't he supposed to be getting some rest?
Rest from being a shepherd anyway.
The Seraphim are back in town. The
Let's go
Seraphim are
check it
back in
out.
town. Checked that one already.
Gotcha, Gold.
So first, we gotta do something about this door.
Hey, if you've read any of my work, Grail, you know that I firmly believe all of the meat of JRPG stories is found in the most minor and seemingly random details. So, more power to you. Never discount the ability to pick up on those things.
Any ideas?
I'm not sure. We'll have to examine it first.
Okay.
What?
Oh, nothing. Just seeing how the shepherd works his magic. Don't mind me.
Okay.
Nope. So this is a clean break from the world and story of Symphonia now, Chrissy. But don't worry, if you catch up on Dawn, I think you will end up feeling better about some of the characters. And I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't want to spoil anything for you. But I encourage you to do that.
Wonder what really is behind that.
Throughout this stream, though, I have been playing the fun game of
You're interested in ruins too,
which
Rose?
characters in this game remind you of
if.
which characters in other
What I
games,
am
because there's a lot of
interested in
connective tissue
is
between
you.
them. And I think those
Oh,
comparisons and
really?
contrasts reveal a lot about the meat of the different stories.
This is dumb. Here, I'll just smash it open.
Don't you dare! This is a precious historical relic!
Rose isn't taking her eyes off you.
Man, she sure is weird. Talking to you guys makes me paranoid she's gonna punch me again. What's so funny?
You too. She was screaming and you were panicking and then pow!
Revel in my pain, why don't you?
I don't know. I'm stumped on that one too, Grail. I definitely don't feel like she's Sheena. I mean, maybe there are some similarities, but I feel like there's more difference than similarities.
A ruin with a sealed-off entrance. There must be a reason behind it.
But it doesn't look like any ordinary seal. There's not even a keyhole.
Fancy a wager? For old time's
She's too
sake?
mature to be
Oh, you're
Marta.
on, sucker. I'll find a way to open it way before you do.
Your track record against me thus far indicates otherwise.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on that one. Gonna bug me though. Maybe almost a little like Alice, if Alice were a shade less sadistic. Granted, that was a lot of Alice's character, but I don't know. I feel like there might be something there. I think the fact that we're struggling with it, though, does underscore what I think is a real and interesting point in the Tales series, which is they don't just reuse and recycle all of the same kind of character personalities and setups, which isn't to say that the characters don't bear similarities, but I think they almost like have innovated a few new character types as the series has gone on. Like I can kind of half remember and think of more recent characters who remind me of Rose, but in those earlier Symphonia games, not as much. Am I missing one? Yeah, it hasn't moved. Oh yeah, here's one. No, that's not it either. I think I have the right idea, so just give a yell if you see one that I'm missing. Is it on the middle of the floor? No. I already got that one. What the heck? Could be more to it, I guess. Oh, well, that's what I thought it was, the bumps in the floor. Let's just be missing one. Can't visualize the skill grid, so I don't know where to put this. So I'll just use a free spot on something Saray already has equipped. Bye, Rust. Did I this question mark show up. What the heck am I missing? Got you. Reached the point where this background music is starting to make me feel like I'm losing my mind. We can't go up here, can we? Maybe there's one up here. Yeah, that's what I thought, Grail, but for the life of me, I couldn't find another, like, raised part of the ground to step on. Doesn't seem like it's up here, though. But there was one that I missed. Yeah, it is kind of crazy. Well, let's run the hideout again. Gotta be just missing one. I truly feel like I'm losing my mind because it's not even that big. Alright, well, keep your eyes peeled. Shout out if you see one. Yeah, so there was this one. We stepped on this. We can't get over there yet, so it can't be over there. Nothing here. I swear, I feel like this puzzle couldn't be simpler, but it's making me feel dumb. Oh, really? They're in different places each time? Well, that's kind of frustrating, but I really like... Even if it's randomized, I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to find them. We stepped on this one. God, I hope it's not because oh, you're joking. Okay. I remember stepping on one, like, before they looked at the door. I hope that didn't somehow, like, break the puzzle. I haven't talked to these people yet. I feel like I checked the door, but let's check it again. Oh! Yeah, I'm just stupid.
Bingo!
I was expecting it to say, like, you hear something click in the distance, the way that it did with the door in the last stream.
So that's what was interfering with the door's rotation.
Looks like I win this time.
For once.
Everyone wins except me. I'm just the big dumb. I'll take the L on that one.
Let's do this.
Oh, you're coming too?
Yep, I'm in if you are.
Rose,
There may be
Half of my
beasts lurking
playtime in
inside that are so
JRPGs
powerful,
is just wandering
people would
around,
consider
not
them
realizing that
monsters.
I've solved the puzzle already.
I refer to these creatures as Hellions.
Okay.
Listen,
Yeah, Hellions, blah blah, something powerful. I'm
Any
listening.
day, Grail. Any
I'm
day,
saying
any
it'll be
time. You
dangerous.
got it.
And I'm saying if you're fine, I'm fine. You've seen what I can do. Come on. I was bored out of my gourd anyway.
hey!
Poured out of my gourd. It's a nice turn of phrase.
I'm going to. Keep her from causing you folks any trouble.
But wait, Dezel! You can't purify the Hellions!
If it comes to
I
it,
don't
we'll
care
bail them
about
out.
that.
Indeed, this is our first ruin expedition in some time. Let's enjoy it.
Some vacation this is.
I'm not sensing much malevolence.
All the better. This ought to be a fine adventure.
Props to Saray. The brother did seem to pick up his morale pretty quickly after being trounced by Heldalf. Especially in the range of JRPG heroes and how down on themselves they can get after a big failure.
What's this?
But I guess it wasn't
Some
really a
lever?
failure so much as just him getting in way over his head very quickly, so everyone could just say, no,
Rose, wait! You
don't
can't
do
just
that
go
yet.
around touching everything you...
I've made a huge mistake. Yeah, I don't know what it is, Grail. It's kind of like I don't feel like it's bad voice acting. I just feel like I don't know. Yeah, I don't have another way to say it except that it feels like her voice is very out of place with all the other voices in the world.
It's no good. There's not even a keyhole.
Whoops.
Don't you whoops me!
Well, at least I got this working, right? It was a dead end otherwise.
She's got your number.
Huh? I can't move it back.
Well, what do I do now?
The other door opened up. I'll go take a look. Stay right there.
Where else would I go?
How cool your jets.
Ah, great.
Yeah, I added after the fact. It's funny. It does feel like there's something about it. It's just a little out of place. Oh, that's interesting, Chrissy. Yeah, I wonder why that is. Because it does seem like very much the same voice acting for the most part, without any spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom. Sometimes just a change in context, like whether it's a sequel or just returning to a game with fresh eyes, it can definitely lead you to think about every aspect of the game, but things like the voices a little bit differently.
Darn it! We can't do anything from in here. We'll just have to trust her.
Saray, why don't you invite Rose to join our group?
Huh?
Well, that was rather sudden.
Where'd this come from?
I actually agree. She'd be a good partner for you.
You two?
Remember what Gramps used to say? A true comrade has different sight, but the same vision.
A true comrade.
That is a cool sentiment. I like
Why
that.
not? Plus, Rose's level of resonance is about on par with yours. With Alicia, you both suffered the cost of making her your squire, but this time I think it would be different.
Besides, it should be obvious by now that you being the only human can cause problems.
Maybe. But I can't involve other people in the shepherd's duty.
So that's what you're worried about, huh?
Saray, have your travels thus far brought you nothing but suffering?
Well, no, it's had its share of good times as well.
Is the shepherd's destiny tremendous enough to overpower the dream we share?
Probably not.
You do know what we're getting at, right?
Yeah. Not every burden is mine to shoulder.
The responsibility you feel is definitely a good thing. But at the same time, you must walk the path in life that is meant for you.
Try to walk everyone's path and your legs will tangle up.
So
Well
you're
said.
saying I've got to figure out my own way of doing things.
But that's all the more reason to have friends to support you, right?
True.
Though it'll be up to her in the end.
Before anything, we'll need to sit down with her and get her to understand us.
That'll go over well.
For now, there's nothing we can do but wait till she gets back.
We talked a little in earlier streams of this about how, at least as far as I can read it, it's not totally clear whether Saray was destined to be the shepherd. And I think the scene we just had with Saray's conversation with the Seraphim is a good little microcosm of why that matters, because the way that they say Rose's resonance seems to be roughly on a par with Saray's, does that mean she's just well suited to be the support of the shepherd, or does it actually mean like Rose just as easily as Saray could have pulled the sword from the stone and bonded with Lila and made the vow to be the shepherd and be walking in Saray's shoes? It's interesting because now we recognize Rose and we can look back and understand she has been there from the beginning, from that first moment when Saray did walk into Lady Lake and become the shepherd. So it's interesting to wonder, well, were they both walking their own destined paths even at that point, or did they just kind of fall into a rhythm that could easily have been otherwise? I don't know what the answer to that is yet, but I hope we get more into it as we explore their relationships
It's
more
been a
here.
while. I do hope she's all right.
We just have to trust her and keep waiting.
What was that?
Whoa!
Not snakes.
Hellions!
Where's a new Indiana Jones movie when you need it?
Don't tell me Rose is flipping more switches!
She's got a nose for trouble, that's for sure.
This whole sequence is an interesting design choice too, because I feel like in other games, like the player's perspective and control would switch back and forth between Saray and Rose. As Saray's, like waiting in this room, then you would kind of see Rose and guide her through, trying to figure out which button to push and things like that. So the idea in this setup that we're just kind of waiting around with Saray feels very atypical to me in a kind of cool way.
Okay, never mind. I'll stand.
It kind of ties into that idea that I floated a couple streams ago where we were asking, like, what's the player's role in this particular story, and maybe we can think of them as the kind of fully animating force of the shepherd that allows Saray to do all the crazy stuff like this that we see in battle and elsewhere.
Alrighty.
And if that's the role that we're meant to occupy in the game, it would make more sense why we're still bound to his perspective even when he's not the one doing the active moving forward of the story, like in this sequence.
That was unexpected.
I'm getting a really bad feeling about this.
Miracle of miracles, we agree on something.
Never thought I'd see the day.
It'll be fine, I think.
She's late. I should have gone with her.
Did you hear something just now?
I sure did.
Smoke!
That's not what you want.
Yep, that sucks.
Hey, this is serious!
Not for me. Smoke's only a problem for humans like you. Have fun.
I haven't watched it, Chrissy. I've watched very little of Black Mirror at all, actually. Should I?
Let's just stay composed,
It sounds like I should, the way you asked.
Fine.
Saray, are you okay?
Rose, don't get close! I'm fine here, just look for some other way!
I'm sorry. I really do feel bad about
Oh,
this.
that's right. We have to hit the switches in a
I'm fine,
particular
I said.
order. That's a good sound. That's not.
You're sure
That
I'm
is.
magnanimous.
Thank you, Edna.
Same as he ever was.
I guess that fixed it.
Yeah,
You almost look excited.
yeah. I hadn't realized, but it's been a while since I've had this much fun.
I remember that took me forever to figure out in my last playthrough, and I don't think it actually kills you, but it gets to the point where the screen is like almost entirely white. You can barely see anything. Really made me feel more like an idiot than anything.
Good. That is a feeling you should cultivate.
Oh, okay, well, I appreciate the recommendation. I might check it out then. I've heard very mixed things about it in the past, which is why, to be honest with you, I haven't given it a closer look. But I have seen an episode here and there, and I've found the majority of them to be interesting, at least. Are there any
I
highlight
can't
ones that you
believe we're just
strongly
hanging
recommend?
around like this.
But you can look around and imagine ages long past. That's the thrill of ruin exploring.
I wouldn't know. I hardly ever get trapped like this.
It's really easy to be literate in pop culture, you guys. Just sit down and watch everything, and then play everything, and then read everything, and then listen to everything. And once VR becomes more of a thing, also experience everything. And then you'll have it all. You'll be good. Quick in and out adventure, 20 minutes tops.
Call rescuing you from a trap or two?
2, maybe. But still, there's something strange about this ruin.
Sealed off areas, doors with little windows next to them.
And devices inside the room that can be operated from the outside.
Oh, an experimenting room.
Aw, they're in each other's heads.
If this place was
Literally,
for experiments,
sometimes.
then it probably doesn't open from this side. We'll have to leave it to Rose.
But we could try to investigate the nature of the experiments at least.
We don't even know if we can get out of here. Must be nice to live in Saray world.
All right, fair enough,
Whatever.
Chrissy. It is on the list. There aren't that many seasons of it, right?
opened.
Like 3 or something? I
can
feel like
sense
that's
a
doable.
domain?
There's a presence of considerable power here, and this much malevolence. It can only be a Hellion.
Rose? Hurry!
Grail, I know what you mean about like SAO quality VR, but I read that and so many people say that, and like my immediate reaction is always,
Dangerous is what
you're gonna sit down and watch SAO and then tell me, man, I want that. Okay, I get the point about it'd be cool to adventure in a virtual world like that, but it strikes me as maybe not the lesson they were going for when they wrote SAO.
If it's too much to handle, run.
Right. We just need to buy enough time for those 2 to escape.
Run back!
And now we've got a really evil knight.
Tiger Blade! Dragon's back! It's over! Runner Street! Try this!
I'm not sure we have the proper elements to face this one.
Do we die here? Let's not.
Thank you for the highlight list, Chrissy. I appreciate it. I feel like I've heard of the entire history of you. I don't know if that's one that I watched in the past, but I think I've heard of that one.
I told you to get out of
Rose,
here!
is this your first time using arms? Rude.
Saray, see if you can manage without me for a little bit.
Huh?
Rose.
I remember this
So you
scene.
can hear me
I quite
now.
like this scene.
I'm impressed. Rose, it's okay to be scared. Just hang in there and listen to me. Saray's like that too. We grew up together, but he still tenses up a little when he sees me. We Seraphim are indeed Saray's friends. And yet, we cannot say for sure if Saray sees and hears the same things we do.
Thank you for the disclaimer, Grail.
Only human out of all of you?
Very warranted.
Yes, Saray has no human compatriots who can truly understand the burden he bears as the shepherd.
You want me to join him?
It's ultimately your call.
Hey, what's your name?
Nicleo, come here!
Coming.
Micleo.
Oh no, what's going on in my chat? I'm worried. The Hellion is enough for me to deal with you guys.
Nicleo!
I can see him, but I still...
Well, this is a fine how do you do if there ever was one.
Oh, right, damn it!
He said, speaking through a time portal from the 18th century.
What? What's wrong with you?
I'm joining the fight!
Looks like she's made up her mind. And she did it all herself, too.
That's true, Grail, but I have some thoughts on that. I think this is worth us unpacking a little bit once we're done with this scene.
Lila, I'll buy us some time. You get the squires pack going.
But Saray, you have to give her a true name first.
Wilkis Wilk!
Huh?
That's the true name I'm giving to Rose.
It sounds kind of silly, Saray. Are you sure?
Don't charge in like
Is
that.
it
Hold out just
like a
bit
bit?
longer.
I know.
You doing a holy
Just
bit?
buying time. Tiger Blade. It's over. Ready? Strike. Yeah. Get on. No escape. How's this? Yeah. Ready? No escape. How's this? Get on. Strike. How's this? Get on. Strike. Solid thrust. Solid thrust. Get on. Strike. It's over. Ready? Strike. It's over. Strike. I won't lose. It's time. Howling Blade. Tempest. Yeah. Get on. Strike. It's over. I need a hand. Whoa. Get on. Strike. How's this?
In his tanky, I can't tell if there's an HP threshold we're supposed to hit or if it's just a certain amount of time.
Get on. No escape. How's this? Get on. No escape. What's wrong?
Oh, like, is the theory you're playing with, Grail, the idea that, like, there was supposed to be one character who was Alicia and then they split her into two for some reason? Is that what you're thinking?
We're here.
You made it.
I think that's an interesting thought. I don't know, it's especially unfair.
Feel like I can take on the world.
All right. Then let's show this Dragonute.
I've had enough of this, Shepard. I'm done playing around. Now you're going to bring my Armadas to life.
Dezel, why are you... When this is all over, we're gonna have a talk.
This is a great song, too.
Tiger Blade!
Awesome.
So this is the Armadas.
Rose, if a helmet has scales, does that make it a scalian? Wait, what?
Yeah. I definitely had that reaction the first and second time I played this game, so I want to try to give her a fair shake this time, like we did with Dawn of the New World. So, man, if we can end up with an appreciation we didn't expect for, like, Alice and Dex in Dawn of the New World, there's got to be something we can pull out of the story for Rose here. It is pretty cool to have two armatized warriors at once. Girls, come on. We had this whole cool double Armatus thing going. Yes, it was. At least they warn us. Nope. Too late. Yeah, I don't know, Grail. I feel like sometimes with characters I don't like, having to spend more time with them than I would expect almost makes me resent them more. I kind of remember feeling that way about Rose in past playthroughs. Yeah, thank you. It was a clutch one, wasn't it? Yeah, this guy's posing more of a threat than I remember. Okay, get out and get in. There we go. Whew! Mama! That was closer than I would have liked. Doggy, doggy. What now?
Good work out there.
Wish I could show it to Evie.
Rose?
Hey, pull yourself together.
It does a decent job of teaching you and cultivating your skills, for all that we've been trolling it, Grail.
Leave her alone, you maniac.
You're quite attached
So
to her,
thank you, I
see.
appreciate it, but I owe it to the game.
Oh, nothing really. Just making sure it was clear to everyone why you wanted to become a sublord.
Shepard, allow me to explain.
I understand, Dezel.
Listen.
It seems there's some sort of agenda you want to accomplish with the Armatus, Dezel.
Oh yeah, thank you for asking, Chrissy. To give another very quick synopsis, Evie was a little out of sorts, as you know. She hurt her leg, but thankfully we got an x-ray, and it looks like at the worst it's like a partial tear or some kind of soft tissue thing, so I'm just managing the kind of impossible task of trying to keep a corgi from exercising too much or getting too excited for 2 weeks. So that is going about as well as you'd expect, but I think the rest is definitely helping her to spring back and get back to her old self.
That's right. And I'm using you to that end. Deal with it.
What is it you want, then?
Revenge.
Dezel would have been at home in Dawn of the New World.
Friend. Tarnished the name of the Wind Riders. Branded them as criminals, and forced them to live out the rest of their lives in secrecy as an assassin's guild.
Oh yeah? Well, in that case, you're more than welcome. We love quelling hellions.
Yeah, thank you, Chrissy. Appreciate that.
You mean saving them, in other words. Does that sound like revenge to you?
You're out to kill them? Lila, how could you invite someone like him to be your sublord?
Because of how he is. Dezel is consumed with vengeance, and yet he has not become a Hellion. Because he has a vessel that cannot be corrupted.
Rose.
I get it. So if Rose were to accompany us by herself, then Dezel would lose his pure vessel, and before long, His lust for revenge would turn him into a Hellion.
Don't make me laugh. I'd sooner die than become the same corrupted being as the one who wronged me. You folks forced my hand.
But something tells me that you're not too bent out of shape over it.
I won't deny it. It did give me a sense of the true power of the Armatus, after all.
I understand your reasons now.
But if you're going with us, you can't be acting like a lone wolf.
Don't worry. I'll work with you. I'm a crummy seraph, but I'm still a seraph. I've got no reason to oppose what the shepherd does.
True.
Well, I guess that's true.
But nevertheless, keep what I told you a secret from Rose. She believes that she's come as far as she has with her own ability, without anyone's help. I don't want her to be troubled by the knowledge of what I've been doing behind her back, or the reasons why I did it.
The Armatus Chrissy is the name for the fusion dance that,
now we're all best buds, right?
well, that Rose just did.
Don't toy with her.
And that
Make
Saray
sure
can
she's
do
all right.
with the
She's
Seraphim.
fine. She just passed out from shock. I think you tossing her on the floor like that is what did it.
Why don't we plan on resting here for a while until Rose wakes up? It looks like the other Seraph still hasn't regained consciousness.
Yeah, everyone's sleeping, Grail. Rose is passed out, the Seraph is passed out. Yeah, we stylized the abbreviation like this, which has kind of become a sweet spot for us. It's a little more nuanced than WTF for obvious reasons. Yeah, but thank you. I mentioned to Dan that you had been listening to it, and he was very appreciative and passed along his gratitude. Yeah, I'll tell you, his work on the storytelling in video games was a big part of what inspired me to go into the philosophy of video game storytelling all the way back in high school, and I still like his content and the way that he thinks about games is one of my North Stars. So obviously, if you've been listening to it, I imagine you can see a lot of parallels between what he's doing with Pokemon and what I'm doing streaming the Tale series. So definitely learning a lot from him along the way. And anyone who's watching who has not listened to Pokemon Rose, the podcast series on With a Terrible Fate, that's kind of the sort of retrospective we're doing for the Tale series, but for Pokemon, I strongly encourage you to do that. One of my favorite things about it is I feel this way, and I've talked with a number of other people who feel this way. Like, I was never really big into the Pokemon series, but even having been on the outside of it, listening to Dan's perspective on it is like really interesting just as a gamer and as someone who has a lot of those games from his own past, and also like almost can listen to those podcast episodes as a window into Pokemon, having always been on the outside of it. Oh, yeah, so before we go on and before we lose it, so like I said, I love that scene with Rose basically deciding to team up with Saray and serve the mission of the Shepherd, and how she gains the power of the Armatus. But I think one of the things that is kind of interesting and striking to me about it this time is we've been spending so much time talking about the battle system, right? And specifically last time we were diving into this idea that there are kind of interesting dynamics that come out from the fact that only one Seraph can be on the field per human in the battle at once. So when it's just Saray, you can only have like 2 characters in battle, whereas when there are 2 humans, it blows up to 4 characters at once. We were talking about how on the one hand, that kind of develops a sense of intimacy between Saray and whichever Seraph he's battling with at a given time. But I think the other thing that's interesting about it was what Mick Leo was calling out to Rose when he was saying, hey, you know, Saray's the only human taking all this on with these like sacred beings who no one can see. That's really isolating and lonely for the dude. And so without some kind of like human to human emotional support, he's just gonna kind of become a pariah whether he wants to or not. And I think you remember, Grail, during the last stream, we spent a lot of time thinking about like the duty that Alicia has to her kingdom and how that sense of duty kind of conflicts with Saray's and maybe keeps them further at arm's length than they otherwise would be. So I think maybe part of what it is about Rose, tying into what I was talking about earlier in this stream with like the various political alignments of people in the world and the fact that the Hidden Bones are kind of apolitical and removed from all that, is that in contrast to Alicia, where she's the princess knight and bound to serve a certain kingdom, Rose is the sort of person who doesn't just have this purity of heart and the ability to see the seraphim, but also is sufficiently like unattached to the human world that she can actually go on this kind of journey with the shepherd as his peer and help to like emotionally support him and recognize him in a way that wouldn't be possible for someone who's bound up in one of those kingdoms or another, especially with everything that the seraphim were saying a few streams ago about how like war and just that human business of nation versus nation is almost like fated to beget more malevolence in the world. Hey Grail, I'm just catching up on the messages, but yes, thank you, and please feel free to shill us wherever. I don't think I've said this on the stream in a while, but you know, we're a purely volunteer organization. We're supported a little bit with deep gratitude to fans through Patreon and some contributions from Ko-Fi sometimes, but for all intents and purposes, it's a volunteer org that's been going for 8 years just because we love video games so much. We love thinking about and talking about their storytelling like this. And we do it for the conversations. We do it for being able to celebrate these games with other people. So the more we're able to share that with the world and talk about it with other people, that's all we're after at the end of the day. Yeah, talk about timing, right? Well, hey, I appreciate that. I have a lot of love for the Tail sub. I feel like that's definitely one of the healthier and more robust Reddit communities. That I was really blown away by their gratitude when I shared the study I did on Tales of the Abyss with them. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, feel free to shout any of our content from whichever rooftops you happen to find yourself on, and let me express my deep gratitude for that. I mean, the fact that not only you would want to hang out on a Friday night and work through this game with us, but also would want other people to check it out. I mean, we take that seriously, and that means a lot, so thank you, Grail.
Let me tell you something.
What?
That girl, Rose, she conducts way too much power. I was able to enact the Armatus and control her body even when she was completely zonked out.
What do you mean?
She's far too used to the power of the Seraphim. It's probably because Dezel's been secretly interfering from the sidelines.
Oh,
for so long.
this is what you were talking about before,
He
Grail, in
must have
terms of
manipulated
him,
her on multiple
yeah,
occasions
controlling
while
her
she was
body.
asleep or unconscious.
Good
if
call.
that weren't the case, there'd be no real explanation for why such power flows through her.
So Dezel used Rose to his own ends time and time again? Just to get his revenge?
And just as he was hoping, Rose had the ability to enact the Armatus. If she loses consciousness, she can be manipulated freely. He's crafted the ideal vessel out of her.
I don't want to interrupt these cutscenes too much, but Chrissy, I just saw your just so sweet message about Pokemon Rose and Dan's work, and I know he already knows how much you appreciate his work, but I will remind him and pass that on to him, because I know, like myself and like the rest of the With the Terrible Fate team, he really does it out of just the deep passion in his heart, and those kinds of comments are, drive to the heart of why we do this. So thank you for that, really. Yes, the bodily manipulation is definitely creepy, Grail, and I have another thought on it. So let's finish the scene, and then I'll share what I'm thinking.
Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Oh, so close to the end. Talk about bad timing. It's not a fully fleshed out thought, but just a half thought. So, like we've talked about before, I think a lot in my work about the relationship between avatars and players, and the way that video games can tell interesting and unusual and sometimes, in fact, unique stories based on the dynamics of that relationship. And one of the really cool things that I've seen in very recent games, without giving any spoilers, is that games are starting to become much more like self-consciously aware of and wanting to play with that idea of an avatar and what it means in stories. So I've been thinking about writing some new stuff about that, but it's interesting, even in those 2015 games, Zestiria, the way that like bodily manipulation of a human by a seraph is almost kind of closely akin to the idea of an avatar, and this, otherworldly presence of the seraph kind of extending its will through a human into the human world. I think that might even be interesting for us to keep track of in terms of Saray, because presumably he's the savior and he's the one going through this journey, but I think what's going on between Rose and Dezel at least like gives us the opportunity to pose the question, well, how much of this is really Saray in control versus the Seraphim kind of guiding him along whatever path they think is best? Because in fact, even as I'm thinking about it now, it feels like there's been a lot of pushing by Lila and Edna and Mikleo to kind of drive Saray in whatever direction they think is best for him. Interesting. Dragon Corridor. Been a while since we've gotten a new landmark.
We're becoming quite the family here.
Yeah, Rose and Dezel are actually pretty cool.
Well, I don't know about Rose, but if Dezel heard that, I'm quite sure he would object.
Yeah, I can imagine. Exploring these ruins like this gave me some perspective again. I'd gotten too worked up. Thank you, Mikleo.
You helped yourself. Don't thank me.
Yeah, she's terrified by such weird, nonsensical things, like hearing voices that she doesn't understand, or suddenly seeing people who weren't there a minute ago. Who would be scared of that? This kind of scene layout seems like a really nice modernization of the campfire conversations in Tales of Symphonia, speaking of points of comparison between the games. I really like those little quiet scenes where you can go around and talk to the characters in your party in whatever order you want to. Although I do feel like something is lost for not having the dialogue options in Zestiria versus the way that takes center stage in a game like Symphonia, with the affinity relationships and everything. Yeah, that does make sense, Grail. It seems like Mikleo is kind of more of the emotional support, whereas, I mean, it makes sense for Lila to be the one kind of pushing because she's the one who has been through these motions before and understands the path of the shepherd and has seen previous shepherds, and so she's kind of in the position to do that nudging role, so to speak.
What?
No, well, I mean...
I just want to be your friend, man.
Just what?
Let me borrow your cool hat.
I kind of like having you and Rose around.
What? What the hell are you getting at?
I mean, I used to think we were the only group of humans and Seraphim who traveled together.
It used to be quite a common affair. Even if people couldn't see us, couldn't hear our voices, they could feel us by their side. Together we laughed. Together we cried.
Weren't all of the scattered bones
You
like
must
that?
see with his spirit senses, Grail.
Exactly. And so
Either that or he's dog-like with a great sense of smell.
Hey.
Know this. We may be working together, but if you get in the way of what I need to do, there will be problems. Shepherd or no.
Yeah, they definitely don't do these kinds of scenes evenly across the games, Grail. I can't think of other, like, early examples, but one that comes to mind is interestingly like this, yet not like this, is the way that they did, like, campfire conversations in Arise, which I quite liked. I mean, it doesn't have quite the same feel as this, obviously, but I felt like, especially since that seems to be the direction that a lot of modern games are going in terms of how campfires and save points in the field are used, it felt like a kind of nice homage to these earlier sorts of campfire-esque storytelling for Tales to update it in the way that they did.
Are you concerned about Dezel?
Well, kind of.
I don't know how he can see.
Hellions, I want to stop him somehow.
If it does come to that, the Prime Lord has the authority to restrain a sublord if he decides to act up.
You can do that?
Man, these conversations are all about
ideally, I'd
one
rather
person
not have
controlling another person.
Though there is a hierarchy between the Prime Lord and Sublord, I'd rather we be friends. If
It's like
Dezel
when your
travels
boss
along
says the
with you,
company is one
Saray,
big happy family.
I'm certain that he'll find some other reason for living besides revenge. He is a seraph too, after all.
You should, Grail. Do it.
So you're finally awake.
It's the game legacy that keeps on giving, I'm telling you.
Boy, howdy. You really helped me out there.
That's why I'm doing this Tales of Praxis
And
series.
of course, my seraph brethren.
I don't do game
I'm
design,
Saray.
but
This is Lila,
this is
Edna,
my game
Dezel,
analytical way of
Nicolio,
giving back
and
to the
one
series and
sleeping over
everything it's
there
given
is-
me.
That dog is talking.
Rose, you're awake.
I am called Oish. Though I may not look it, I'm as much a seraph as any of them.
I'm getting a crash course, Mystic Secrets of the Seraphim.
Nice to meet
Every dog is a seraph, and
Likewise,
every dog is
I'm Rose.
perfect.
Looks like she's used to it.
So, shall we return now that Rose has recovered and awakened?
I don't know. She's
No-ish?
having so
You
much
mean
fun.
the prototypical
screaming
life
and
form
punching?
designed to ultimately evolve into a
We're
human
wasting
who would
time.
kill evil?
Let's head back.
Hold up.
I was so
We
sad
haven't
when they
found
didn't
anything yet.
call out the
And
deep
there's more
lore of
ruin
Noish
left
and
to
Dawn of the New
explore.
World. What an
Well, I
oversight.
guess there's only one thing to do.
Yep.
Keep going.
We're not done with our little expedition yet.
No vacation from this vacation.
Then let us proceed further in. Saray, are you ready?
Thanks, everyone. All right, Oish. We're going to look around in the ruins a bit more.
You folks are a blast, I tell you. Be careful out there.
See you later, mystical doggy.
Oh yeah, I feel that. That deep busyness where you're too tired at the end of the day to do anything else, let alone learn. But hey, Grail, it's never too late to start nor to gather up the energy. So if you needed an extra motivation or nudge, let that be it. Are you kidding, Chrissy? That's the best way to start a conversation with anyone. Wait. Sit down. I need to tell you why your dog reminds me of the best optional joke video game ending of all time. Did I tell you there was a vendor at PAX, I think last year, that was selling this great like metal album style shirt that was like an homage to the dog ending of Silent Hill 2. And Dan and I both got a copy of the shirt. It was great.
That's a lot of dragons. Are these statues of the 8 serpents?
No, it can't be.
I wouldn't
The numbers
even
don't match.
address the owner. I would just
doesn't
run up
like
to their
relics of
dog and
dragons.
say, "So, it was all your doing," and then collapse in a broken pile.
I can understand the whole deity worship thing, I guess. But why the dragons?
Beings of incomprehensible power, symbols of awe-inspiring terror. Humans probably hoped that praise to such an entity would help them somehow.
Oh, shoot.
I've been all over,
Oh,
but
Edna.
I've never so much as seen a dragon's footprints. Oh, though I bet that thunder we heard at Rayfalk is enough to inspire dragon legends.
That's because that one was real.
Sure.
You should start a con like that in the
You can go there
UK,
and
Chrissy.
verify for yourself.
Someone's got to
You'll
do it.
probably die though.
I'm sure it would be popular.
We met a dragon at Rayfalk.
And also, it's
It was,
Edna's brother.
Edna's brother.
It's kind of
Wait,
a sore
isn't Edna a
subject.
seraph?
Yep. A dragon is what you get when a seraph accumulates too much malevolence.
It's okay. You don't have to apologize. I agree with you that praying to a dragon is a stupid idea.
It's interesting to get that perspective on like misdirected worship in a game that's all about sort of the right forms of worship. Grail, just catching up on your older messages. Yes, if you can find any way to take that week to sit down and do nothing, I strongly encourage you to do that. Not really with the terrible fate stuff, although I do find it valuable to take breaks from that sometimes. But after my stint running a startup, which ended like in the middle of last year, I didn't know how much I needed to decompress just by doing nothing and being with myself until I actually like sat down and stopped. And oh my god, sometimes that can restore you like nothing else. Even better than sleep. Just like turning off and deciding I'm gonna take like a day or a week to just be with myself and not have any expectations can really recenter you. But easier said than done, of course.
Who knows? I remember the Rolance army falling apart.
Immediately afterwards, Highland also lost their general and retreated. I'd say it was a draw.
Yeah, that's funny about the deep lore, Grail, because we were talking a few streams ago about how if there's a legend in a JRPG, you're going to meet everyone involved in it, and it's a real part of history. But you're right. Actually, on the grand scheme of JRPGs, this actually does kind of have more rumored mythology than you might otherwise expect.
We did what we needed to do.
That's right.
More sketches and suggestions than deep, robust histories.
Yeah, in Marland. Alicia has her own dreams to pursue too.
So what? Does that make me a replacement?
No.
Oh, Grail, even Rose has that theory you were talking about.
I decided to join you guys of my own volition. But don't expect me to fit into that princess role.
I'm different.
Glad you understand and all. But that's a little rude of you, don't you think?
Rose is her own person. That's going to be her catchphrase. Let's see how many times we can use that across the course of the stream. Nothing like a good old-fashioned wind warp. Alright, where are we going? Rose is special. She screams and hits Saray when she needs to. Ah! A monolith! Written in the ancient tongue!
We're near one.
Thank God. I have been missing the ancient tongue.
Wait, what?
No comment.
We won, as usual.
Ah, yes, and now we have a perk where we get to run faster after we successfully win a battle.
Focus, guys! A werewolf? Probably some guild member turned heli.
What was your comment last stream, Grail? Edna is a Reddit user. And it takes on a whole new second meaning with this strike that's going on. Is that the right term? Protest? Mass exodus? General unhappiness? Whatever's going on with Reddit.
Victory is ours.
Windstepping, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Oh, that's nice. You even get a little mini dose of people trying to understand the gameplay mechanics. The exact cause of windstepping is a topic of heated debate among Marland's leading scientist philosophers. See, of course, I'm the kind of monstrosity of a player where I want to be able to like go into a library and find the actual articles where that debate is played out, which I don't think this is the kind of game where you can do. If only.
Focus, guys.
Unrest, yes, that's a good word for it, Grail. I like that. Mass internet unrest.
complete!
Oh no, that's so true. The woman in Marlin took all of my books
Something
away.
like this is right.
Why would she do that? That's the true malevolence in this game, Grail.
I think I found something.
Is that an iris gem? Speaking of deep lore. Heldalf. Ah, we're getting the descriptions of these updated as we learn more things about the world. Now that we know Heldalf, we are conveniently getting a window into his past. He takes advantage of the wars to engage in venomization, producing ever stronger Hellions. I smell a new keyword. Yep, that's Heldalf, all right. Like you tried to get into the meta of it, Grail, and it was exactly that made you realize it wasn't as fun as Grace's. That was kind of my experience, honestly, with mining skills like I was talking about last time for the different equipment. That's one of the reasons that I haven't been doing it this time. It's like I did it, and like I was saying last time, I get the effort and care they put into the system, but it's just not one of the more enjoyable grinds for me personally. So it looks like venomization is he's getting Hellions to like fight and feed on each other's malevolence. Like Pokemon evolution, but with Hellions.
What's that? It looked like a monster.
Bring it back to what we were
It's
talking
the Earth
about
in
before.
Historia. It records events from the past.
Is this a record of wars throughout the world?
So that guy, Heldalf, he's using those wars as crucibles to breed more malevolence.
He pits Hellions against each other in order to increase their strength and ferocity.
Chrissy, I meant to tell you, just quickly catching up on your messages. Actually, the last time Dan visited me here, I thought of you and I asked him, hey, do you know this game, Eternal Sonata? And he said, yes, love it. It's a classic. You should absolutely play it. Yeah, so I don't know if and when we'd be able to do it as co-op, but given our conversations about it in the past, I would very much like to do that. And his endorsement only pushed me to want to do it all that much more. Yeah, Grail, I talked about this a little, and it's funny that you mentioned Ganondorf just while we're on pause here quickly. So what I said when he showed up, I'm actually like, I'm interested to see him play out in this playthrough, because in some ways, yeah, the way this moral universe is rigid and it's a Christ narrative, he's like a stock great king of evil, as you're saying. But I think there are like at least some interesting differences or things particular to him, like even beyond his character. I was talking when he showed up about just this idea that, like, you know, we have this trope in a lot of stories, stuff like Ocarina of Time or Final Fantasy VII, where there's like the big bad you're going to face at the end and you run into them at various points throughout the game and kind of have to fight them before the big fight or face them in various ways. But in this game, it's very much more like Lila tells you the end of the story is going to be facing the Lord of Calamity, and then you kind of almost run into him by accident way before anyone was ready, which strikes me as like an interesting wrinkle to or riff on that more standard trope. So I'm interested to kind of look back at his arc with some new eyes in light of that, and with the context of a lot of the other Tales games before and since then.
Disgusting.
His heart is surely sunk in the depths of darkness.
That's the truth of the Lord of Calamity.
Their spellcasters turned Hellions who couldn't die peacefully.
Don't underestimate their use of seraphic arts, fools.
Hey there. Thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, we've talked in the past on the stream about how, at least for me, it's pretty tough to pick like a favorite JRPG. I mean, favorite JRPG, even tougher, but even within the Tales series, which is what this Tales of Praxis series is all about. One of the reasons that we're playing through, I think probably all of them eventually, one right after the other, is just to kind of try to better see what each game is trying to do on its own and how they kind of work in conversation with one another to create a whole that's greater than some of its parts. I feel like each one is really trying to say different things with its storytelling, and part of what's fun about playing through these games in this kind of sequence is being able to just see them on their own terms in a way that you might not otherwise be able to. So, sorry for a long kind of deflective answer to your question, but it's kind of how I think about reading the stories of games in general.
Let's restore our health.
Yeah, I haven't played Cold Steel, so I can't offer any insights there, unfortunately. I definitely should have restored our health before this. I was not thinking.
Purification complete.
And now we can heal up some characters, which will definitely help us. There we go. Wow, Grail. Of all the characters in the world, Rose is definitely one of them. Come on, we're giving her a fair chance this time. That's the mandate everyone has to abide by. Alright, which way are we going here? I think we want to go up this way? This is the way we haven't been yet, I think. Yuri is the one from Zestiria, right? Well, that kind of makes sense. Kind of waving my hands because I haven't played Zestiria in years, but I remember kind of the core of that game, and the main party is vigilantism, and as we were talking about just a few minutes ago, kind of part of what I think is characteristic of the Hidden Bones is the idea that they're vigilantes also, but specifically like not aligned with either of the main kingdoms in the game.
Focus, guys.
Oh, Reen, you're new, so I'm gonna politely add, and I should probably find a way to add this in the stream notes or something, because we're trying to work through like a wide range of the games and we don't know who's played what before. We kindly ask for a minimum of like plot-heavy spoilers for games when we're talking about them. Not that we can't talk about them, but I just I'm trying to make the stream something that people who haven't played the Tales games before can enjoy just as much as the people who have played them before, like us. Thanks, appreciate it. Whole lot of rumbling up above, fellas. I smell a bustling in my hedgerow. Don't be alarmed, though. Oh no. Yeah, very, very different, Chrissy. Different Yuri.
The ruins are calling me.
I'll cut you
And Grail, I wouldn't ask you to elaborate. So we're good.
Looks like we win.
I remember saying when we were going through Dawn of the New World that it felt like a lot of its dungeons were labyrinths with a bunch of twists and turns, and we definitely got lost more than once. And I'm laughing at that now because I feel like just looking at the maps for the dungeons and layouts in Zestiria, they're not as complicated as the ones in Dawn of the New World. Like, there are fewer twists and turns. I think it's just because of the sheer size of the various areas and worlds, and how large like the rooms and corridors are, where it's easier to kind of get lost just by the scope of it. Even if, like if these rooms were all downscaled so it felt like we weren't swimming in them, I feel like I would have an easier time keeping track of them than I'm having right now. Yeah, the map definitely helps. The maps and the stars. Innovated purely for directionally challenged people like me. Talk about quality of life in games. I'll tell you, jokes aside. I shouldn't say jokes aside because this is a joke, it just has the benefit of also being true. Like, if you need a case study for someone who needs maps and navigation quality of life in a video game, I grew up in a little town in New Hampshire, alright, where there were like 3 places to go in the first place, and 1 city. Not only did I need to use Google Maps to get around even 5 minutes from my house, no matter where I was going, but also, my friends will tell you, famously on more than one occasion, I drove the wrong way down one-way streets in that little single city in Seacoast, New Hampshire. So, I need all the help I can get, is what I'm saying. Oh, it's easy, Grail. Be really shitty at directions and really bad at looking at road signs. And I guess also really stressed because, like, it must have been in the first year or 2 of when I even got my license, because these were like high school days. So, and, you know, just be sometimes a little bit of a space cadet. You know how half the time we've been adventuring through these games, Grail, I've wandered the wrong way down a hallway just because I kind of, you know, get lost in a thought that we're talking about or otherwise get disoriented? It's like that, but in real life. That's how. But it's also like, in my defense, it's like, this was when I was going down a cross street that intersected orthogonally with the runway, and the streets in this town are kind of like cobblestone, and it's hard to see around corners sometimes, and also there aren't always that many cars, so it was pretty easy to like think you could go either way, turning out of what was basically an alley, and only find out once it was too late, oh oops, I've made a huge mistake. Chrissy, please, I would never be freaked out by the plurality of things you know about me. Well, unless you're like, if you're like, yeah, and also I know what side of the bed you sleep on. Then we might have to have a conversation.
This mural seems to depict the trial that the one who is to be the shepherd must undertake.
But yes, parasocial relationships are delightful for that reason.
Here.
I like that.
Whoa, the shepherd's trial, huh?
Is this blotch here supposed to represent the continent of Glenwood? Then this insignia thingy marks where the shepherd is supposed to go. Is that right?
No such thing as too much WATF, Grail. Perish the thought.
Tonight's dinner, marble curry!
Lila.
Don't mind her. She gets a little random
Give
sometimes.
us a goddamn answer.
She can't talk about because of her oath.
Oath? Like a diet?
Yeah, exactly like
so there are
that.
4 places with that mark.
1 in the north part of Lake Haven Heights, 2 in the southern end of the middle of the continent.
And the last one is in the direction of Western Bolt Gorge.
Well, if they call it a trial, that means something good happens if you finish it, right? Like maybe you get some awesome equipment or sweet power-ups.
We can't talk about Mabo curry too much, Grail, because then I'm
Maybe I'll
gonna
get
get
the
hungry.
strength to overcome any kind of domain.
Gonna have to stream me eating dinner instead of
Just
playing
might
this
have
game.
hope against Heldalf after all.
Guys, English please? What's a domain? What's a held elf?
I think it's healthy, Chrissy.
Well, it's,
Know what? Forget it. We'll talk about it over a meal. We got what we came for, right?
yeah. Looks like our expedition has come to an end.
Cool, let's go. I just got bored all the way back into my gourd. Didn't know you could do that.
For real?
Looks like it.
No comment.
Yeah, good question, Grail. Let's check out this map before we go. Also,
There should be a vista point nearby.
people with JRPG backgrounds, can you help me? What other game did like exactly this in terms of there being like a world map inside of a ruin that has key points you're supposed to go to? Is it like I have a Final Fantasy title in my head? Like, did 9 do this? Or am I thinking of another like Bandai Namco JRPG that isn't a Tales game? There's a game I played like pretty recently that did the exact same thing, and it's gonna bug the hell out of me. Yeah, it is interesting to see the world map all at once, isn't it? Because especially in Zestiria, you mostly just see the big, sweeping, singular areas as you go through them. Maybe it's just because I've played far too much Xenoblade Chronicles in my life, but it almost reminds me a little bit of the Titans in 2. They look a little bit like animals, some of them, don't you think? These continents. No, okay, very funny, you guys. There's a specific game, like it's gonna kill me that I can't think of it, because if I could pull out the picture of what I'm thinking of, you'd be like, yeah, that's the exact same thing. I'm 90% sure it's Final Fantasy IX. I think there's some ruin there for part of the mission that Zidane and everyone finds that's like, oh, here are the next places you have to go to like assemble some kind of gem to jump between the worlds or something. I'm gonna have to go through like an entire Final Fantasy IX playthrough now just to make my point. I hope you realize. So thanks so much.
You'd be so scared of Seraphim or Hellions if you could see them from the beginning.
That's probably true. If you can see them in the first place, at least you know they're there with you. If you can't see people, and then suddenly you can, it means that there were people there the whole time when you thought there wasn't anyone at all. Doesn't that give you the creeps?
I sort of get it, but not really. I think Mikleo and the others have their work cut out for them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think it's confusing necessarily. I guess actually, as I'm looking at it more closely, I guess part of what's confusing about it is like part of the continents appear to be lit up or colored in. Like it appears like if like the color blue here is water, and then this light color is some kind of like highlighted land, but the dark color is presumably also land. Maybe it's domains or something, like maybe because it's a map of the Shepherd's Journey, right? So maybe it's suggesting that like the dark parts have kind of already been lost to malevolence, whereas there's still sacred influence in the lit up parts. Yeah, interesting. I'll have to keep an eye on that as we go. Thank God, another monolith.
A monolith written in ancient tongue.
Drinking game where every time you find a monolith, you chug a fifth of your favorite liquor. Yeah, and then if the highlighted points, Grail, are the places you can explore, that's such an interesting way of thinking about the Shepherd's Journey too, because we've talked about how like he has a clear mission and goal and something he has to do, but also he's been told to explore the world. So it'd be funny if that was like, yeah, go on and explore the world, but also there are only like 5 things we really need you to learn, and you can only do that in 3 specific places. So like explore the world, but only these parts. We don't need you to worry about the rest of them. It's like an open but constrained world in a game like this. Which honestly, for this kind of game where you have like an at least quasi-destined hero saving the world, that sort of like constrained open world makes more sense structurally to me than an open world where you can truly just go and do whatever. Because if you can go and do whatever, then speaking of Jesus narratives, you end up in the weird situation like a Final Fantasy 15 where you're supposed to go and kill the devil, but why would you kill the devil when you can go on a drive with your buddies and hunt some random monsters and go fishing for like 100 hours first? And that starts to kind of stretch the limits of willing suspension of disbelief, I think.
Yeah, but...
Earth in Historia this, Shepherd trial that. It's turning into one big mess.
We're all lost, Dog Seraph. Help
I'm not
us.
sure where to start.
Well, think about it. The locations are all over the world. Plan it so we don't waste travel time.
All right. Then how's Pendrago sound?
Pretty close to Pendragon, if you
Of
ask.
the bigwigs in the Rolance Empire by now. You might want to go explain that Highland only got you to fight for them by force.
Oh, good idea. That would likely make our operations inside the Rolance Empire much easier.
An approach only the humans could take.
Looks like you're all on the same page.
What are you suggesting there, Grail? Even Christ maybe like went off on his own adventures when he wasn't like going on his fated journey. Is that your point?
That's right. Are you going to stay back here, Oish?
I'd sure like to. I'm still kind of attached to the place, but I probably don't dare stay here by myself.
Yeah, exactly,
Is
Chrissy.
something wrong?
Though you might or might not
There needs to be
recall,
someone to
I have a
worship this
theory according to
like at a
which
shrine
that
or a
actually makes
church.
sense in Breath of the Wild.
Or else he could be tainted by malevolence and become a Hellion again.
But you have to really want
Then
to see
we'll
it.
find someone and bring them here to cover it. Sound good?
You sure? I thought this was your hideout.
Whatever. Just leave it to me, okay?
You're the best. I should be sitting pretty for the time being, thanks to all you folks.
I'll put it in the chat
Just
in case
bring
anyone's
someone
interested.
here whenever you can. I'll give you blessings out the wazoo.
Well, I'll see you around, Oish.
Come back soon.
Love everything about this dog's character design. Love that he's a seraph. Love that he's the Lord of the Land. Love his happy old man voice actor. It's all great. Well, in their defense, Grail, the journey of regeneration is a sham, so, like, more power to them. See, it's all about context. Alright. Are we finally out of these ruins? Pendrago, here we come. Does even this, like, I feel as though we've chugged through this section at a very nice clip on this evening's stream, even stopping to talk about a lot of other stuff on the way. But man, I remember when I was replaying this section of the game a couple of years ago, like, this whole sequence from the defeat by Heldalf to, like, armatizing Rose and exploring these ruins, I felt like it dragged on forever. I don't know what that is. I'm going to keep blaming the structure of the world, though. I think it has something to do with the layout of these areas.
Anyway, we'll set out tomorrow.
Chrissy, it's me. Of course I wrote in Breath of the Wild.
What? I was thinking of heading out now.
The real question is, what am I going to
Just
say about
clothes
Tears
on
of the
my
Kingdom?
back? Oh, please. I am a girl, you know.
Oh.
And...
Huh?
You have been battling those... Hellions, is that right?
Yeah, and that's interesting too, Grail. To like, we could do an interesting study of like the cadence of different episodes in these different games, because I feel like it does vary. I feel like we definitely covered more ground in like a Symphonia or Dawn of the New World stream than we're doing here. But yeah, I've been thinking about exactly what you say when you ask, is it just a good stream game? Like, I feel like this is maybe one of the first Tales games that was really built during the time when streaming was coming to prominence. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was the kind of game where developers like at least thought a little bit about streaming when they were structuring like the length of episodes and things like that. So all that to say, I don't think it's a coincidence that we're kind of getting these digestible story chunks at a fairly streamable pace.
Those monsters most people can't see.
Or I'm just really good at curating it and
time?
you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
No, I'm playing.
That man we were talking about, Heldalf. He's the Lord of Calamity. So,
Whoa, hold your horses. Save the long stories for mealtime, okay?
let's go.
This is kind of interesting too. I'm looking back through the messages and I'm thinking more about Christ narratives and the relationship between being that kind of savior and also exploring the world. And I haven't read this book since I think my freshman year of undergrad, but if anyone's read or heard of The Last Temptation of Christ, which is this famous surrealist novel by Kazantzakis, I think. Gotta look it up. No, not the film. Yeah, Nikos Kazantzakis. But it's a really interesting surrealist novel where, like, to my recollection, the last temptation of Christ, like, before he goes and dies on the cross to redeem humanity, is, like, basically he has this surrealist vision of an entire human life lived, where he, like, gets married and has kids and does all this stuff, like, as a person. And so he's kind of, like, tempted by his human nature, which he has to, like, overcome in order to basically, like, embody his divine nature and redeem everyone of original sin. Man, I'm making myself want to reread it because it's been a minute, but I think those are the broad strokes. But anyway, that idea that, like, part of what it is to be that destined savior actually, like, almost requires an exploration of the world and the nature of living before you can make that kind of sacrifice or redeem all of humanity. And when you frame it in that way, it kind of makes more sense to me than the tension that we've been talking about between, like, exploration and a destined linear quest in modern games. Oh no, a direct connection to the film, Chrissy. What was it, a Scorsese film? Yeah, Scorsese's film was an adaptation of the novel, but the novel was first. Yeah, I've mentioned that a couple times too, Grail, but it's worth making a point and shouting it out. Big fan of the soundtrack. I think that in combination with just, like, the size of the areas, I think, is what makes this whole game just feel very grand in its aesthetic to me. Like, the scoring just really makes it feel like an epic quest.
Hey, Rose.
Huh? What is it? You're sounding all serious.
I remember liking the soundtrack of Arise also. I just remember it much more as, like, consistent with the themes of Arise, more of, like, get up and fight, almost sort of arcadey style music. That's my memory of it now anyway, as opposed to a lot of the other scores of Tales games, which I feel like are a little more sort of varied and nuanced on the whole.
Calamity written about in the Earthen Historia, right? What about it?
I met the Lord of Calamity on the battlefield.
Yeah, definitely let me know what you think
huh?
if you watch/read them, Chrissy.
Even your resonance was cut off.
Oh, so that's when I came to the rescue. And?
What do you mean, and? This journey is going to be dangerous. Honestly, I don't even know if we have a chance to win.
I'll help you find a way to win. And if we can't, we can always run away. We'll be all right. You know the reality of the situation and what your capabilities are, and that's fine by me.
Thanks.
For what?
For everything.
Not sure I get what you mean, but you're welcome.
There isn't a problem. If there is, we'll just run away.
I like that skit too, because I'm already forgetting the exact phrasing of the line that the Seraphim were saying to Saray about why he needs Rose, but that idea of, like, having the same goal but from a different perspective. like that skit to me showcases how she's sort of similarly an optimist in the way that Saray is, but they have sort of slightly different tints to it, and it's characterized in different ways in each of their cases. So it's a nice way of showing what the Seraphim were telling earlier. Yeah, I feel the same way, Grail. I'm also conscious of the fact that I only played Arise once, though, so I wonder, and a lot of these other games I've gone back and played many multiples of times. So I wonder whether, when I do go back and replay it, if the music will stick with me more than it did the first time.
Pleasure to work with you too, Dezel. Man, I sure am feeling the tension. Just like a real adventure.
Adventures in social psychology, maybe.
Talk about little quality of life things that make a difference to how I experience the story. The fact that those little field conversations aren't cut off when you enter a battle. Because I feel like in other games, even in Dawn of the New World, I don't remember what I felt was interrupted in that way. Because I don't think there was like field dialogue in that. But I can picture in my head lots of games where you're like having a conversation in the field and you almost have to like, oh, my my console thought I was talking to it. That's funny. But you know the games where you almost have to like run in a circle to avoid enemies until the dialogue ends, because otherwise you'll enter a battle and then what they're saying will be cut off. It's nice that they just keep talking into battle in this game. It makes it feel much more like a single journey they're all on, unless like a bunch of little episodes that have been stitched together. Oh, funny. So maybe it was even Arise that I was thinking of. Since we were talking about it, maybe I had it on the brain. Why did they make this little corner of the map if there's nothing here? See, I see things like that, and it's these little sections of the map that make me think like, okay, the storytelling voice or like developer auteur in this game is just going out of his or her way to fuck with me.
This is Lastenbell. It's renowned the world over as a city where artisans and traders congregate. That's the one. You know more about the world than I thought. Hey, what did I say about the voices in my head?
You said that you loved them.
Purification complete.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this before, but not only the fact that they follow you, also the fact that you can speak to them and have like a range of little conversations whenever you want to. I want to try to take advantage of that more because, like, yeah, I understand that a lot of them are meant in case if you like lose track of what you're doing, the other character will remind you, but a lot of times it's just little extra dialogue that adds more color to their relationship or the way they're thinking about the events that they're working through. It's a nice little touch. Boo! Chrissy, I'm gonna ban you from the chat if you spout garbage like that. Obviously, it can be an aesthetic choice to create a believable world, but I think if that were their design mandate with this, they would probably start a few other places. I think people are working on that kind of AI RPG, actually, Grail. Like a friend of mine, actually another analyst on the site, Max Sporinsky, who does our Earthbound series, which is great. He's also really into AI, and so he'll send me like things on Twitter every now and then about stuff that people are working on at the intersection of AI and gaming. And yeah, I know NPC dialogue and behavioral loops is a big area of focus. Don't try to bait me into harder difficulties by saying it'll make me seem cool. I am very comfortable with my skills relative to what this game is asking of me. Look, okay, so people who are familiar with my work know this, so I won't belabor it. But just to end this conversation about that silly little nothing panhandle and this world, I am okay if a world in a story feels naturalistic. I am fine if it feels very tailored to the journey of the avatar and everything has a use. It's all a question for me of narrative coherence and saying, does the relationship between this world and character make sense? And is it consistent in a way that lends to the themes of the story? So I feel like in a game like this, part of what I'm wrestling with, in all seriousness, is, again, like it's the same tension we've been talking about in Soray's character, right? Where like, maybe it's even worth writing an article about this, where he seems like the destined hero who's on a journey, and the world is like Lila has directly said in the past, he has the ability as the shepherd to shape the world, and so everything feels kind of made for him in the way that you would expect like the teleology of every object in the world to kind of actually refer to the shepherd in one way or another. But then on the other hand, like he's expected to succeed in his journey by exploring the world. And if there's a world to explore and learn about outside of him, you would expect it to be naturalistic and not have it be the case that everything has a purpose that's indexed to the shepherd. So it's like, I think it's interesting that those two things pull apart. And I don't think it's like necessarily a flaw or an oversight, but I think that for me is kind of the issue at hand and what I'm navigating with what you would call the world building of this one in particular. Zestiria could have been Breath of the Wild, but should it have been Breath of the Wild? Grail, if you tell me why Skyrim has more releases than the Bible, I will tell you why it's always one of the first games to get new technology. I think the answer to both is that Todd Howard is the actual real-life Lord of Calamity, but that's just my 2 cents.
Those who don't comply shall be punished.
You gotta be kidding. I don't have time for this.
You're punching above my weight class in your Pokemon knowledge, Chrissy, but I'll take your word for it. I'm
What
sure
do you
Dan
think?
would have views.
There's gonna be a real war going on real soon. Odds are they'll be detaining you, I bet.
Huh? Why me?
You literally can't save the world until you find every single Norman Grail. That's the law, the cosmic law of the shepherd.
Right?
Yeah, in Highland, I think.
Well, of course I've
Right,
heard
but
them.
the latest
He's me.
word is he's made his way to Rolance.
Huh? No kidding. Crazy.
Does the Rolance Empire think unfavorably of the shepherd?
You bet they do. The knights have seen what he can do in battle and are all up in arms, and the church has branded him a heretic. As if that wasn't enough, there's talk of mysterious happenings going on in town.
Not mysterious happenings.
Oh, looks like I'm up. On that note, watch your back out there.
I thought we'd be fine, but now I'm not so
Speaking
sure.
of NPCs who don't feel like characters in your party, Grail,
The idea of making someone like you tell a lie?
the ones who generically let us know about mysterious happenings.
Your best hand to lay hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah.
Guess we better get ready to make a run for it.
We have a pass and everything. Just chill. I got this. Just no creepy head voices for the time being. Got it?
So long as you don't cause any trouble.
Said the creepy head voice.
Okay.
Just keep your mouth shut.
Next.
I loved Arceus, Chrissy, because of the aforementioned parasocial relationship. You probably know this anecdote too. Actually, my interesting experience with Pokemon is like my only experience with the series basically has been getting into it through sort of the alternative non-flagship games, so stuff like Colosseum and Gale of Darkness and Arceus.
I am Sergei Strelka.
And so I kind of like,
captain of the-
I won't talk over our dear friend Sergey, because that was kind of my main point of entry to the series. I feel like I almost expect different things of it than the average Poke fan. But man, I'll tell you, as someone who was never kind of into the like main gym progression plotline of the Pokemon games, being able to just, I mean, talk about a world you can live in. Like, I spent so many days and months just living in Arceus and hunting down wild Pokemon, and the sense of just atmosphere they created in that world really struck me as kind of the, I think, the Poke magic that a lot of fans talk about. So that was, yeah, really, really special to me. I personally wouldn't call it a baby step. I felt like that was a giant leap in a direction that I'm really excited about for them, because it is, like, at least as far as I know, the Pokemon series was very different than the other stuff that they've done. Yeah, we'll keep. All I'll say about Pokemon falling off, Grail, and then we can get back to our, as you say, our new party member here, is keep listening to Dan's podcast, because he's foreshadowed to me the places he wants to go with it in terms of, like, what brought him back to the games and how, like, his growing up has changed his views on especially the modern games and what it is that they're trying to say. So that might be an interesting, like, new lens to give you a different take on them. So I know a lot of people have felt as though they've fallen off, but I think in terms of some of the themes that they're exploring and the way they're in dialogue with the earlier games, I think there's a lot of kind of unexpectedly cool and deep stuff to recommend them.
Platinum Knights, defenders of the glory of the Rolance Empire. In cooperating to ensure the Empire's peace, you prove your gratitude as much as your loyalty.
I think if you go into it expecting Breath of the Wild, Chrissy, you'll definitely be disappointed, just because I don't think they were trying to accomplish the same thing.
We've come to Lastendel on business, specifically the collection of a bill.
The sparrow feathers, are you? Quite impressive.
We've got a strict deadline, no time to waste. The place of business is the liquor establishment on the main road.
Ah, yes, Boris's Canteen. That place certainly gets an awful lot of business.
And we deeply appreciate being a part of it. Is there anything else?
No. My gratitude for cooperating with our inspection.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Next, you there. Quite some garb you're wearing. Are you this young woman's guard?
Oh, a girl doesn't dare travel alone.
Then why does he carry an ornamental sword?
He knew that Soray's sword was ornamental? He's seeing right through us.
He's less of an idiot than he looks.
Wait, there are people
I
watching.
definitely know that feeling, Chrissy, and I feel that about other things like Magic the Gathering. That's kind of part of what's soiled me on that series for the time being. Made me take a break when I felt like I was just being inundated with too much content.
Please forgive my unquestionably suspicious appearance. The truth is, I am the son of a provincial lord.
Rose.
That's right. My husband here is
Speaking of human manipulation by the Seraphim.
Never had I lifted anything heavier than a fork in my life, yet by chance did I fall in love with a traveling merchant. In the throes of passion, I threw my money and land away to be with her just over a year ago.
You did?
Even my wife didn't know the full truth. The cruelties of the outside world taught me how feeble I truly am.
I just met her.
But even so, I knew a husband has a
And
duty
this
to
is
protect his
crazy.
wife.
I'm not the shepherd.
So I wear
And
an
we
ornamental
are
sword
married.
at my side as a hollow pretense of strength.
How many Seraphim does it take to accurately puppet Saray?
Sorry.
You're doing your best. It's cool.
Oh, my dearest, your sweet words are succor to my tired limbs.
Sow the seeds of love and they will bloom no matter how arid the terrain.
This is the most meaningful romance in the entire Tales oeuvre, and I will not elaborate.
Next!
I don't know how that worked, but I think we made it. Thanks, guys.
More like we just lucked into the perfect audience.
He believed it because he's sad and alone and wants a wife of his own,
Have an
man.
invisible woman on your side, isn't it?
I suppose. I'm sorry I told you to be quiet.
So it's all right if we communicate directly inside your...
No, it's creepy and obscene.
Obscene?
Obscene might be a bridge too far.
Come on, let it go, Lila.
Alright then. I assume that we're on our way to Pendrago now?
Well,
But Mikleo, this town looks all kinds of exciting.
well, it does, so...
We really ought to poke around at least a little. Did I nail it?
Not gonna lie to you guys, I thought we were already in Pendrago. I forgot this was a different place.
Sounds fun. I'm game.
Help me, all the towns are already blending together.
Bunch of children.
That's why we get along so well. And someday we all will.
You mean Seraphim and humans?
Looks like there's something nearby.
So Grail, are you saying you fell into the classic Tales trap of finding a place that did not advance the story but had higher level enemies, so you just wanted to fight and grind using them? Because that's exactly what I did on my first attempt trying to play Xillia, and I got like too gassed after maybe 20 hours of grinding in that high level area to actually continue with the story.
But goodness, we usually reserve such sensitive...
Yeah, it is kind of thematically and aesthetically similar to The Witcher 3, these areas, Chrissy. I wouldn't have thought of that.
It is appreciated, but you must understand, Cardinal Fortin and the other high clergy have very strict requirements for us.
Whom are we eavesdropping with?
Grace, be assured that my organization will be most generous in our contributions.
It looks like that is the town sanctuary.
You're supposed to be inside the
Shall we?
sanctuary. Yeah, I got it in one, Grail. That is the exact area I was talking about.
You okay?
Are you not feeling well?
Literally at least like 15 hours just grinding there. And then I didn't have it in me to continue with the game.
Whoa! What are you doing?
You tell me. When I formed the pact with Lila, she told me I had to remember those in like 3 seconds. And now I can't get them out of my head.
It was an emergency. I couldn't help it.
Lila can be pretty forceful sometimes.
I wish she were a ghost. She'd be less scary.
This is interesting because there's a lot about language in like some of the other Tales games. I'm thinking of Tales of the Abyss specifically. And that's obviously a part of this too, because there's this whole notion of their true names that have a certain kind of power and literal resonance in terms of giving the humans like a specific relationship and ability to interact with the Seraphim. Kind of similar to the name of the great tree, Yggdrasil, in Dawn of the New World as well. But I feel like we haven't gotten a lot of background into like what that true language is and sort of what its significance in the world is beyond the true names and how it came to be. So I hope that's part of the history we get as we explore all of these ruins and learn more about the world. I don't remember it being part of what we learned from my previous playthroughs. I don't think we can open these yet. No. Lastenbell, okay, that's the name of the town we're in. Not at Pendrago yet. Yeah, I think literally this town, or if not maybe Pendrago right after it, was where I stopped as well, Grail, so we kicked off at just about the same point.
Got a request. Church of Rolance.
Roger.
You could look it up, Grail, but what fun would that be?
Not a very old building, but still, remarkable architecture.
Hello? Is there anybody
Fire
home?
Emblem games, there's another series I've never really gotten into. But enough people have said enough things about it to me that I feel like I ought to try at some point.
Ghosts? I mean, no guardians.
Just not really my style of
No
gameplay,
surprise.
and I've heard like very strong things in either direction about the story. People either love it or can't bear it.
Well, what should we do? Look for a seraph who can bless it?
Huh. I wouldn't know where to start.
You know, it isn't necessary to get completely hung up on restoring the blessing.
Yeah, how'd you like that one, Grail?
You sure?
It should be fine. There isn't all that much malevolence around here.
I've heard really good things about
And
triangle
besides,
strategy.
it's not like
for
you can
sure.
go and save the world all by yourself.
Absolutely. The most important thing right now is that you broaden your perceptions and hone your powers.
So that we can stand up to the Lord of Calamity, right?
You'll have a hell of a time with that if you can't even tell when you're being followed.
Oh.
Who are you talking to? The stained glass? Didn't you have urgent business at the restaurant on the main street? What was the name again?
Yes, right, Boris's Canteen.
There's no restaurant by that name. He's alone. Let's take him down and
So
get
he
out.
didn't really buy the silly story. He just wanted to be able to track them and figure out what they were up
Can you
to.
see us?
That makes more sense.
Nope. He's just that good.
That is a cool idea for a character.
Have fun with your human friend, Saray.
Huh? Seriously?
This is a human problem after all.
Come. I shall apologize for deceiving you. And then... you're going to tell me who you really are!
Yeah, I think this this fight was one of the very last things I did on my last save file. But Grail, you have to listen to Saray's whole ethos. He's a knight with his own, dream and reasons for duty that don't align with the shepherds. So he couldn't be a party member, even if he was otherwise perfectly suited to it.
Handed down with pride in my country. Tornado drive.
Ready? Strike! It's over!
Tornado drive.
He does seem perfectly suited, though. I wish his dream did align with ours. Maybe we can talk him into it.
Ready?
You held back. You'll regret it later.
I'll be fine. I appreciate you looking out for me.
Even your comeback is weak.
Yeah, talk about classic Tales arts, right? Nothing like a good beast.
Are you speaking with Seraphim? So during the inspection, you really were.
I must apologize for lying to you, Sergei.
It is I who owe you an apology, gentle shepherd.
Huh?
It's a great one, to be
Only
sure.
in the clashing of blades may one gauge a man's strength. Might I ask your name?
Saray.
Shepherd Saray, I beseech you to lend me your power. For the sake of Rolance.
But we've heard that the Rolance Empire is on edge because of the
Trying to think what my favorite art would be. Probably Lightning Blade.
The
That
Knight's
one's
Dream
always
is
had a special
dangerous
place in my
wild
heart.
card with a level of power comparable to Cardinal Fortin.
Ever since Symphonia.
And the Church views the Shepherd as a threat to the Cardinal, therefore a heretic.
The Cardinal is the number 2 figure in the Church, first in line to succeed the Pope.
On paper, she's an aide to the young Emperor, but in reality, she holds the reins.
Verily, and she is said to be capable of causing the same miracles that the Shepherd can.
Diplomatic negotiations
same
are
as the
really
shepherd.
just a form of dating, right, Chrissy?
What is the meaning of this? Since when have the knights been so brazen as to let themselves into the sanctuary unannounced? Don't tell me you have come here intending to stain the years of our faithful with foul lies about Cardinal Fortin.
Father, I would never.
Spare me your noxious dissembling. Get out of here at once.
Everybody's corrupt.
Come to the park. We'll finish our discussion there.
Except for the Shepherd's team and Sergei. Oh my god, 61 grade? How? Defeated a powerful enemy using no items. Jesus Christ, I don't know if I've ever seen a grade that high in my whole life. Finally, I can die in peace. I love a good belfry. Here's a fun Aaron deep lore that people might or might not know, because I've thought about writing for it on With a Terrible Fate before, but have never really brought it up. I am trained in Russian bell ringing, so big towers and Russian cathedrals, belfries, big old bells. I learned with monks how to play those and traveled over to Russia more than once to train on actual bells. There's video somewhere in the deep internet of me ringing the bells in the little chapel at the mouth of Red Square, right next to the Kremlin.
Is this belfry all machine run?
Yep, it's what Leston Bell is famous for. The gears get moving, the bells get swinging, and it sounds like the most entrancing music.
Now that's something I'd like to hear.
Wow, you'll only get something like this in the City of Artisans. Such craftsmanship.
Oh, an art appreciator now, are you?
I wonder how the motor works.
Don't ask me.
I hear the sound of the drawworks. They're probably utilizing the power of the aqueduct running underground.
Aqueduct?
Really? Nothing I can see suggests that.
That's because it's a hidden refuge area. This place was built as a fort in the first place.
Oh, so that's why this place is surrounded by castle walls.
Before it was a fancy belfry, this was a communication tower for sending smoke signals.
So much history everywhere. This is too cool.
Guys seriously geek out over the weirdest things.
Well, let them have their fun.
Nah, bells are
Yeah,
awesome.
I suppose.
You're not gonna win that one with me.
Get out of town! What do you mean they're selling elixir?
It's true. Word around town is that the nobles in Highland and Rolance can't get enough of the stuff.
But how are they getting access to it? I thought the church controlled the entire supply.
I smell a rat.
But they say they've got the church's blessing, no pun intended. And apparently the damn stuff actually works. Longer life, fresher breath, everything.
Well, don't that beat all?
What beats all is the price of that junk. You gotta be one rich chump, let me tell you.
Yeah, I should have guessed as much.
The church is selling elixir now?
Something sounds off about that.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Oh my god. There's such intrigue in the lives of turtles. A traitor in their midst. Traitor, not to be confused with traitor, as all of the other turtles apparently are. We can see this part through, and then I think we'll be in a good position to wrap up for the evening here. Pleasure. I want focus, dude. Okay, why not? What could happen? Yeah, that's right. Why have lore on things like the language of the world, Grail, where we can have the deep lore of the turtles? I will say that one Cat's Quest where Genus got the cat's costume in Tales of Symphonia was more touching than I remembered it.
Sorry about
Oh, there we go.
I didn't want you to
Have
have
to
to
come at
see
him from
that.
behind.
Things weren't quite as bad between the knights and the church when the Pope was still around.
The Pope?
Pope Macetra was a kind-hearted philanthropist, whom the former emperor greatly trusted. Even the knights would have gladly carried out any order he might give.
Wait, what do you mean was?
He went missing about a year ago. As if prepared for the confusion, Cardinal Fortin took the stage, and soon she had seized all political power.
So, you think the Cardinal had something to do with the Pope's disappearance?
Is there proof?
None. I had the combined powers of the entire Knight Squad on the case, but no clues turned up.
Night Squad!
But any knight who snooped around the Cardinal went missing. 18 of them in all.
Subtle.
I don't want to admit it, but in order to stand against the Cardinal, we need power that exceeds natural capabilities. Shepherd Saray, I know it is wrong of me to ask, But can you help seek out the true nature of the Cardinal?
The Cardinal resides at the church in Pendrago, right? I thought commoners weren't allowed inside.
It's true. I'll try to pull some strings on my end to get you permission to enter.
All right. We'll meet with the Cardinal.
Oh, frabjous day! I shall make the preparations immediately.
That's a criminally underused word.
Please
Frabjous.
forgive me for dragging your husband into all of this.
Huh?
Let us reconvene at Pendragon. Once you
Oh, I spoke
arrive,
too
come to the
soon.
Knight's Tower.
He didn't realize it was a bit to get them inside the town.
He seriously thinks you two are married?
What a weirdo.
That's pretty funny.
But he's so pure.
A pure idiot.
Kind of adorably pure. Even more innocent than Saray, I feel.
I can tell this is gonna be trouble.
But at least it's getting us inside the Shrine Church.
Right. While we're at it, we can probably tell the higher-ups in Rolance our side of the story.
Though something tells me those higher-ups are going to be the real problem.
Well, leave it to Jesus to take on a corrupt church.
Looks like the church and the Knights of Rolance really are at odds.
And here I thought they were both supposed to protect the people.
Herd mentality always prevails when people sort themselves into groups, no matter the situation. It can be helpful in lending authority to institutions that wouldn't otherwise command it, but more often than not, it generates malevolence, leading to great conflict.
Like wars, you mean?
Yes, in the most extreme cases. Even the conflict between the Knights and the Church could be considered a war, if on a much smaller scale.
War is the people's history. I read that in a book once, and I think I get it now.
Would it be better for me not to get involved?
What do you think?
I want to know. Even if the reality is bleak, it is still part of the world we live in.
Then let us go forth. This is your adventure.
No, it's our adventure. Mine and those who believe in me.
Come on. It's an uplifting skit.
I don't think any dogs have barked at me for a while now.
There's the reason
I'll
why.
just clear out the skits, then we can wrap up for the evening.
Looks like the dogs are flocking to him.
What?
Pretty cute.
You want something?
No, I'm just a little surprised. You're okay with dogs?
Of course I am. Dogs are silent partners. You haven't given them enough of a chance to know better.
But dogs do bark.
They only bark because they can sense your anxiety and aren't sure where it's coming from.
In other words, it's because you're afraid of them in the first place.
Well, I'd argue that they bark at me first.
It's so hot again. It truly is. I think I'm gonna get sunburned. Edna, do you use your umbrella for protection from the sun?
As you can see.
Do Seraphim get sunburned too? I
So
guess it
why would a
makes sense since
seraph
Edna
of
has
fire
really fair
get a
skin.
sunburn?
Edna's umbrella can be used to avoid the sunlight as well as rain.
That's suspicious.
It can even be used to push back the Hellions.
Oh, wow! So it's like killing 3 birds with 1 stone.
Not quite. It's also her signature item, so it's more like killing 4 birds with 1 stone.
If that's true, then really it's like killing 5 birds with 1 stone, since she has a cute mascot character attached to it.
And it's also something she can change depending on her mood.
Skit
so that's
universe
actually
exists
sick. I like
outside the
Cinderella
realm of
with an
logic.
umbrella. I must say, that was a good one.
Not to mention a lot of dead birds with 1 stone.
And as Grail has taught us, because it was in a skit, the dead birds are not canon. That is a good button on which to end the night, I think. That was quite a romp of a session, I must say. It was great to have such an active chat. That definitely makes all the difference for my real-life JRPG party and just the energy of the night. So, Grail, Chrissy, thank you so much. Chrissy, it was so lovely to have you back after so long. Hope to see you in future ones. Reen UEF, thanks for stopping by too. Hope to see you again. It's a little different than your typical JRPG Twitch stream, but hopefully in some rewarding ways. We're really in it to dive deep into the story, because that's what With a Terrible Fate is all about. And hopefully that's something you can continue to enjoy with us. Yeah, it was a lot of fun for me too, Grail. So thanks for stopping by. Man, we covered off a lot. Met the Lord of Calamity for the first time. Figured out some of the true nature of Rose, brought her on board to the adventure, and now we are infiltrating the Rolance Empire to take on the church. Things are escalating. And we got a sense of the actual path of the shepherd more than just the ultimate goal, because now there is a trial for him to overcome. And as Grail mentioned, we are now at the point where the most recent replay of the game that I did drops off. So I've played it all before, but the rest is much less fresh in my memory. So excited to dive into all of that with you too. This has been so much fun, truly. Thank you for joining me. I'm Aaron Suduiko, the founder of With a Terrible Fate. I hope you have a great weekend. If it's the U.S. or other places that observe Juneteenth, I hope you have a great long weekend. But no matter what you do, I hope you game well. Feel free to reach out. I'm sure in between my gaming and working and doing stuff, I'll be lurking on the internet. So if you want to chat more about this or anything else to do with video game storytelling, I'm always open on Twitter and in spaces like that. And continuing to work through some companion articles for the Tales of Praxis series. So look forward to the hopefully the floodgates, knock on wood, being reopened on those soon. But yeah, such a pleasure. We will be back here on Monday at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. So don't miss. I sense a lot of really interesting adventures in the world of Saray the Shepherd and Heldalf, the Lord of Calamity, coming very soon. Yeah, you have a great weekend too, Grail, and Chrissy, you as well, and all the rest of you, dear viewers. Have a good one. Next time.